Oh my gosh.
should be ashamed of yourself for having that thought.
what now?
Well, looks like it's that time again. Hope you've all been having a good night and or day. But we have a great deal of stuff to look at, so we better get right to it. Buckle up those seatbelts, space fans. We got a little ride to take through the abyss. Well, we are going to start in the usual place today, and unfortunately, me taking a day off means that at least 4 mass shootings happened in the United States. I guess we'll start in Inwood. Where a 16-year-old was arrested in a deadly triple shooting outside a subway station.
At least 15 people are recovering from bullet wounds tonight after an Oakland Juneteenth celebration ended in gunfire. The non-sanctioned...
Wait, this is in the wrong order. What just happened? Go back. Hold on, chat. Something's fucked up. Like, whatever. Is it the next one? Is it on the next one? Okay, I guess we'll just watch this one then.
At least 15 people are recovering from bullet wounds tonight after an Oakland Juneteenth celebration ended in gunfire. The non-sanctioned event was peaceful until it started to wrap up. As NBC Bay Area's Jody Hernandez reports, that is when things turn terrifying.
Just, walking around enjoying the festival of Juneteenth on a normal, nice day.
But 27-year-old Dejanique Madlock's fun day celebrating Juneteenth with family ended like this.
No, they shooting at each other.
Gunfire erupted as Dejanique headed back to her car parked on Grand Avenue, sending hundreds ducking for cover.
So I couldn't make it to my car. I had to run for my life.
We have everything from minor gunshot or flesh wounds to loss of fingers to some of the individuals still being in critical condition.
Oakland Police Chief Floyd Mitchell says the violence began when about 20 vehicles initiated an illegal sideshow. Shortly after fights erupted in the street and gunfire broke out. The chief says several officers were also attacked while aiding the victims. So far, no arrests.
Why can't we have nice things?
Get rid of the Second Amendment.
Oh, God. So, yeah. 15 people were shot at that Juneteenth celebration in Oakland. I don't know what happened to this story, which I had set up from ABC7 New York. Somehow it's vanished, and I don't know why. But let's go to this from Philadelphia, 6 ABC, where a teen was among 7 shot.
It is Wednesday night. I'm Gray Hall. Shari Williams will join you tonight for the news at 11. The big story tonight on Action News is developing news. A North Philadelphia neighborhood was riddled with gunfire tonight, sending 7 people to the hospital. Action News reporter Caroline Goggin joining us live tonight outside police headquarters with the details. Caroline, bring us up to speed on what you're learning about this shooting.
Well, Gray, we have learned that the 7 people who were shot tonight in North Philadelphia, they are all in stable condition. Philadelphia police tell us right now that no arrests have been made and they don't have a motive at this point or a weapon. They say they continue to look for the person or the people responsible. The 911 call started coming in just before 6:30.
So yeah, no suspects have yet been identified yet. Well, no, actually, I take that back. There are suspects identified, but nobody who has been apprehended for this crime. Oh, how do you have 20 likes? There's only 14 people watching right now. 4 and 14. Okay, so yeah, just in those 2 instances of violence, over 20 people were shot. Some are in critical condition. Nobody has been proclaimed dead from either event. Doesn't really make it better in my mind. Okay. Well, this one is frustrating on multiple levels, as you will see here shortly. This is from Cron 4 hours ago, somewhere in California. Wait, is this California? Oh yeah, I could be wrong about that. Is there a Newark in California? Either way, there was, somebody had a replica gun. And they were shot by Newark police.
Our top story this afternoon, reports of a man pointing a gun at motorists in Newark, ending with an officer opening fire and striking that suspect. It happened early this morning, and as Cron 4's Philippe Jagal reports, the suspect is expected to survive.
Suspect. He had a toy gun. See, this is the problem with our society, right? There's so many goddamn guns. You see anybody holding anything even resembling a gun, you think suddenly it's a threat, because of course you would. We we have a problem.
A 34-year-old man is in stable condition at a hospital after being shot at least once by a Newark police officer. It all happened at around 4:30 this morning. That's when police were responding to reports of a man pointing what they believe to be a real gun at motorists on the 5800 block of Jarvis Avenue. When officers...
Good God. See, we just don't. We just need less guns.
Get rid of the Second Amendment.
This is wild. This is a wild society that we live in. Fact is, the only other countries that come close to and or compete with the United States for gun deaths are Mexico and Brazil. We're number 2. Brazil technically has more gun deaths per capita than we do. And in fact, maybe more even just like on a case-by-case basis. But I feel like, God, I can't remember the list that Trump told us about of the shithole countries, but I feel like they might be on it. So is that bad for us? What does that mean? What does that mean about America? Ah, God, we're not done. We are not done. Because there was a mass shooting at an Arkansas grocery store. This is from 3 hours ago. Associated Press had this one. Alright, tell us about what the fuck happened here.
At approximately 11:38, 911 calls were received.
Not a good source. No, you're totally right. No, you're totally right about that. I'm just trying to, I don't know. What's the word? Just point out the fact that these are countries that are often criticized by people such as Trump. However, we have, you know, we can say hands down we're beating Mexico for gun violence, even though the claim is that Mexicans are bringing violence here, oftentimes, from people such as him and other fearmongers about immigrants.
There was an active shooting situation at the Mad Butcher grocery store in Fordyce. Law enforcement responded immediately and exchanged gunfire with a lone suspect. Unfortunately, we can confirm that 11 innocent civilians were shot and 3 of those are deceased. 2 law enforcement officers were injured in the exchange of gunfire. The suspect was also shot and taken into custody. The injuries to the officers and the suspect are not considered life-threatening. The remaining civilian injuries range from non-life-threatening to extremely critical. The investigation is in its early stages, and we have no information or no more information that we can release at this time.
A lot of Vergonia flags in the Twitch chat right now. For fuck's sake. So yeah, 3 people in this Arkansas supermarket were gunned to death, and then 10 other people are now in varying states of conditions, all the way up to seriously critical. That's just from a couple of days. It's like 40 victims of gun violence in 4 videos. There were some, you know, it's just, this is where we're at, I guess. Okay. We're going to move away from gun violence to talk about threats of violence against U.S. officials. This is from CBS News from 2 days ago, where local government officials are facing rising threats across the United States.
With 5 months until the presidential election, Americans, you're not surprised, probably, sharply divided. But it's not just federal office holders who are facing a lot of this toxic atmosphere that's out there. There's also harassment, unfortunately, against many local officials. That's increased by 55% over the past 2 years, according to a recent study from Princeton University. CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns joins us. She has been investigating this. Caitlin, tell us about what you have found. We know after 2020 that there was a lot of vitriol directed toward election officials. Has that not only remained, but actually gotten worse, and why?
Yeah, Bob, it's a really good point, and we know that this has been directed towards election officials, but what this study found, and what we found through our reporting, is that this is now directed towards local officials at various, levels of government. And what's striking here is that, for federal office holders, you expect, unfortunately, harassment and threats. For local offices, things like the school board, county clerks, county commissioners, city managers, people who are really close, intimately close to their communities and help run things like, making sure the water's running and the water's on, right? Or running the school board. Those are positions that used to not be controversial. And now the Princeton study shows an increase in threats and harassment. And we found, too, that this level of harassment is something kind of out of a movie. I mean, one county clerk in Erie found a partial pipe bomb thrown into her house while they were sleeping. A mayor in Texas was sent a noose in the mail. We also were in Nevada, where we focused this story, and there were GPS trackers placed on the cars of a mayor candidate and a county commissioner candidate. This just shows this toxicity that we've kind of become used to here in Washington is reaching basic levers of government across the country.
Yeah, we got to do something about this sort of mentality. It seems to be prevalent in the United States. People just, not just political violence, but violence in general, it would seem, being some kind of a solution to everyday problems. It's not. You need your support. Oh, you need your support characters. I almost forgot all about that. You got Jessica Fletcher. That's 4. Who's 14? Mork from Orc. Mork and Jessica. Yeah, I mean, like, there's been a bunch of these sort of incidents that have been more publicized, like, what was the name of that guy who went to the Pelosi's house with a hammer? Can't remember his name. I think he just got convicted on all counts.
Well, that's a sweeping assessment about what's going on out there. But tell me about some of the individual stories like Beth Smith.
Yeah, so we spent some time in Washoe County, Nevada. As you know from covering politics, it's such a critical swing.
You demand Cisco? Cisco isn't an emotional support character. But there is a Cisco emote on Twitch for Twitch subs. So, you could either subscribe with American dollars or use your free Twitch Prime subscription from your Amazon Prime subscription that you probably have. Or you could get gifted a sub by a generous viewer by just watching on Twitch. I mean, we got Cisco at the bar, right? But there's no Cisco.
County in a critical battleground state. But we talked to Beth Smith. She's a member of the school board, and she says, when she ran for the school board, or when she joined the school board, she was thinking about her kids' classes being overcrowded. She joined for those kinds of reasons, but now she has to have conversations with her kids about, whether they can answer the
whether they can answer
or when
the
someone
door.
knocks.
Whether they can answer the door. Wow. We could get Cisco emotes on YouTube, but I'm not monetized. And I know for a fact that there are people who watch this stream that aren't subscribed on YouTube. And that's holding us all back, okay? All right. Let's move on from that. Staying with government-related stuff. This is from CBS News as well. Wow, 2 CBS News pieces? This is shocking. I really am not a fan of you, CBS. Anyway, yeah, let's look at this, because if you're not aware of this, you should be made aware of it. Thankfully, there is already, I believe, a lawsuit filed over this, if I'm not mistaken. This is from a couple of days ago, where apparently the Louisiana governor signed into law the requirement of the 10 Commandments to be displayed in all classrooms.
Louisiana is the first state to require that the 10 Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom. Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed the bill into law today. The legislation, written by Republicans, mandates that every public classroom, from kindergarten to college, must have a poster-sized display of the commandments in a, quote, large, easily readable font. Civil liberty groups, including the ACLU, are vowing to sue over this. They responded in a joint statement saying, quote, "We are preparing a lawsuit to challenge HB 71. The law violates..."
Yeah, it absolutely violates the separation of church and state and the, what do you call it? The establishment of a state religion. Basically goes against everything America supposedly stands for. In terms of acceptance of other peoples and not being theocracy, but there's really been a wave of the desired theocrats showing up lately, doing wild things like this. And once again, this was from 2 days ago. I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive that that lawsuit has now been filed. No, I'm not blaming anyone particularly in chat for not subscribing. It doesn't even tell me who's not subscribing. I just see in my analytics that there is, in fact, some cohort of people who are watching this stream but not subscribing to it. I don't know why. It doesn't give me any sort of reasoning for that. It just tells me that you're not doing it. Somehow your thumb is just not making it to that subscribe button. Okay. Now, let's move on to talking a little bit about housing. First in the United States, where permanent housing high-rise has been unveiled on Skid Row, or at least a plan for a permanent housing high-rise is being unveiled for Skid Row in LA. Let's go to this.
And tackling the homeless crisis in the heart of Skid Row. That's the goal of a new housing complex in downtown LA. It has hundreds of units and apparently plenty of amenities. NBC4's Darsha Phillips live right now at City Hall. Darsha, you got an exclusive look inside of the building ahead of the big ribbon cutting tomorrow?
Yeah, that is correct, Colleen. We did get an exclusive look inside those units. The ribbon cutting ceremony will take place tomorrow. The mayor is expected to be there, and there will be tours of those units. Now, this is the largest permanent supportive housing in the city, and it will benefit those who are formerly unhoused. And the building itself changes the landscape of Skid Row.
Driving down Crockett Street, you're met with the tents and makeshift homes synonymous with Skid Row. And now, in the middle of it, stands a towering 19-floor building.
Having this building here where it is changes the look and feel of Skid Row.
With 278 Section 8 units, the Weingart is the largest permanent supportive housing in Los Angeles.
If we get them off the street, that's a win. But we don't want to stop there.
Kevin Murray is the president and CEO of the Weingart Center, the organization behind this building.
This comes fully furnished with everything that someone would need to start a new life. Often people will not have pillows and bedding and sheets and towels.
The vision, he says, is to remove barriers that keep people on the streets.
We take people with pets. We help them with veterinary care.
And make sure they want to stay housed.
Another thing which we are really proud of, you can see this says music room.
Music lessons, choir practice, an art room, a clubhouse, an outdoor space with breathtaking views.
They're human beings.
Yeah, they're human beings. Thank you, sir. We watched this earlier, but I just loved this video so much. I just wanted to watch it again this week as the week wraps up here, because it's just a great story amidst a sea of shit, where the government is in fact doing something that we, I think, all want, you know? And that, you know, the unhoused deserve to have, right? And can't just be in LA. It's not going to solve everything. But these sorts of projects will hopefully create some sort of a precedent for other places to follow suit and doing the right thing. And not just getting homeless people off the street, as he said, but in fact helping them and finding their, you know, their way, right? Finding their potential, because, you know, even the unhoused have potential in life and need to be treated as human beings that deserve these sorts of simple human needs. And I just think that the structure of this development is just, it's a great plan. It sort of creates a community for people, allows them to be themselves, and to even have pets, which is oftentimes very much not allowed. Okay, now let's go to talk about housing in Canada. We recently talked about how there is the dynamic has now shifted in Canada, where the amount of properties being sold is actually slowing down. The amount of properties being put on the market is actually increasing, creating now what is often referred to as a buyer's market, which could see pressure on prices. There was some data out recently that showed that prices are starting to come down, and the same thing is happening in America to some degree. But we're just going to be talking about Canada here today. This is CBC News on why so many big city condos are sitting empty.
Want to show you something. Cute little condo in Toronto's Harbourfront neighborhood, bustling part of the city. It goes on the market. In the summer of 2022, the sellers put it up for $480,000. It didn't sell. Early 2023, it's back on the market for $460K. No luck. Later that year, posted again at $450K, still nothing, and a few months ago, the sellers tried again at $430,000. No takers. This condo was sitting on the market for more than 400 days without a sale. Right now, in Canada's biggest cities, there's a ton of condos like this struggling to sell. Condo sales in Toronto, for example, haven't been this low since the financial crisis in 2009.
Condo flippers are getting absolutely slaughtered right now.
In majority of these towers, they are half empty.
Nobody wants these condos, folks.
And here we are in the middle of a housing crisis. It's never been harder to get into the market. And so many of these condos spend so much time sitting empty.
I gotta say, it's not the worst to watch these sorts of like condo flipping YouTube bros being like, oh, nobody wants to buy these anymore, when they've been sort of heavily involved in pushing up these prices. Hold on, we can't watch this whole thing, but I just wanted to make sure we hit on some of these important points.
Market in a way we haven't really seen before. I'll show you what I mean. Let's compare what a condo investment in Toronto looked like in 2016 to today. So according to the Toronto Real Estate Board, the average price of a one-bedroom condo back then in 2016 was about $300,000. And with 2016 interest rates, about 2.7%, that worked out to a mortgage.
Oh, I'm supposed to hydrate. I still haven't put, I might have to put the browser source, like the alerts for Twitch on this This is like one of the only windows where I don't have it, just so I don't get distracted. But then I see it and I'm like, oh, then I didn't do your thing, and I feel bad. Thank you for keeping me hydrated.
Of about $1,100 a month. Rent for the average one-bedroom apartment at that time was about $1,660. Not bad from an investor point of view. Even with, maintenance fees, property taxes, that condo is essentially paying for itself while you build equity. Now, what if you were to buy a one-bedroom condo today in Toronto? That could cost you about $550,000, so prices have very clearly gone up, but so have interest rates. The carrying costs on a property are far higher than they ever used to be. Well, not ever, but in recent memory. At current rates, 6.8%. Maybe now you're paying more than $3,000 a month for your mortgage payment alone. Then you've got, property taxes, maintenance fees, and the average rent for a unit like that, about $2,400.
Which is still an insane amount of money.
You're now paying
but
out of pocket.
they're losing.
The average
Crazy alarm. Oh yeah, Marvin the Paranoid Android. I made him into a emote as well. He's on Twitch. I forgot about that. By the way, whenever I'm on this screen, the Twitch alerts should all work. And the other screens. But unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe I should just do it. One thing I wanted to quickly look at, because I know that it's a pretty similar situation in Canada, although I know that it's not exact, so do forgive this, but it's a very similar situation in America with regards to what's happening right now with these sorts of investor properties, if you will, where people are now to some degree like underwater on their rentals, if you will, right? I just wanted to look at this. That doesn't quite show you what you need to see. Where's the other one that I saw? Why didn't I save this image earlier? I hate myself sometimes. God damn it. I can't find the graph. But there was a graph that I found. I can't remember who did the study now. That's part of my problem. If I knew who did the study. But the fact is that over the last, whatever, like 10 years or so, there's been some increase, across the board, federally, but also state by state in the United States, where wages have gone up. But due to inflation, those wages have actually been stagnant, even though we've seen, wages go up in a lot of places, right? And we see a lot of like businesses complaining about the cost of labor and blah blah blah, this and that. But people aren't even really making more money. They because of inflation, they're making as much money as they were like 8 years ago. God, why can't I? Fuck it. I can't find the graph We'll look at it later if I do find it. Hold on, there's more I want to look at with this particular video. Yeah, right here, I think.
So these units are completing and they're not worth what the investors paid for them, right? So they paid $1,500 a square foot, but they're only worth $1,300 a square foot.
So some investors are trying to bail on a bad investment. Some can't afford the carrying costs, and lots of them are all in this situation at the same time. So you end up with a flood of condos on the market. But isn't that the very definition of a buyer's market? Like, isn't this great news for people who want to jump in? Well, it would be if these condos had actually been built for the people looking to buy. According to StatsCan, the average size of a new condo in Toronto has shrunk significantly over time. From 1981 to 1990, new condos were on average about 1,000 square feet. From 2016 to 2020, they were around 650 square feet, or about 40% smaller. And if you ask anyone who lives in the downtown core right now, 650 square feet actually feels pretty big.
Seriously.
This is what a 275 square foot condominium looks like in downtown Toronto.
Look how small this bedroom is in this Toronto condo for sale that I was showing.
This is the den. This little cutout in the wall is the den, okay? Doesn't even fit an entire table.
And yes, Toronto is definitely an extreme example here. But the analysts we spoke to say these tiny units have become more and more common since the early 2000s right across the country. And developing these smaller condos targeted specifically at investors who then turn them around for rent, that was a real business opportunity.
We needed rental housing. So basically what happened is like that was filled by mom and pop investors buying condominiums and converting them to rentals.
They only had one single thing in mind, that they would be purchased by people who would be landlords.
Investors want small units. The yield is better. The price is lower. It's easier to qualify.
According to realtors, it's these teeny tiny investment condos that are currently flooding the market in places like the Greater Toronto area.
Broadly in the GTA, we're looking at over 13,000. Majority of these suites are investor units that are listed.
Okay, I think that's all I wanted from this one. But yeah, the market is changing fast in multiple places. And Toronto is one of the most overpriced. Actually, I think it's the #1 most expensive city to live in. I won't say overpriced. I'm not going to make a judgment call on whether or not it's worth it to live in Toronto. But it is the most expensive city on the planet. Marvin didn't make it as a support character, so now he's an emote. It is the first day of summer. That's right. First day of summer. It's also officially 4 full months of the Galactic News Network streaming. Day in, day out. You like to spend time in here for show? On the Twitch? Yeah. I appreciate that, actually, because the only place that I can make ad money from right now, even if it is tiny. Okay. Yeah, let's go to this one real quick and then be done with housing entirely for the day. Well, kinda. This is from 11 days ago. No, sorry, a day ago. Wow. That is bad. My eyes are fucked. Reverse offer? How a slow Canada housing market is forcing sellers to get creative.
We've never seen this many condos listed for sale in Toronto.
This is largely driven by a higher number of investors wanting to exit the market.
The head of real estate analysis firm Relosophy says many investors have decided that owning rental units isn't worth it.
High rates really impact affordability and buying behavior. You know, it's a tougher market to rent in, so some investors are just pulling the plug and wanting to get out.
Broker Devell Morrison says it's a far cry from the years of bidding wars and skyrocketing prices.
A lot of them are not selling. It's very difficult to get even showings on condos.
Forcing her to get creative with a rare reverse offer. That's where the seller entices a prospective buyer with a discounted price and a real willingness to bargain.
Quite frankly, my client needed to sell her condo and the condo market wasn't moving. So as an agent, I just needed to get creative to get the job done.
New condo sales in the Toronto area dropped to the lowest quarterly total since the financial crisis, according to a new report by Urban Nation. But even though...
Anyways, this is honestly a good sign for those of you, and honestly for anybody who's, you know, struggling with paying for housing and it being too expensive, because this is the sort of trend that will hopefully at least bring down prices on things. Fact is for these things to happen, we either need governmental intervention, or you need motivated sellers or more inventory. But there's been problems with both of those last two things. Why am I coughing so much today? Jesus Christ.
Jesus, I say that.
Whoa, those are some crazy emotes I'm seeing. Very crazy Twitch emotes over there. Watch out for quicksand. Good point. Good point. Who knew quicksand was such a big problem? Honestly, though, I was expecting a lot more quicksand in adult life. I feel like as a kid, I thought that was going to be something I ran into, like on the reg. Break now. Is that another hydrate? Yes, it is. That is. There's also, I mean, people haven't quite found all the different things that can be done. In fact, the first, second, third, what do you call them? Like Twitch follower channel point thingies have not been getting redeemed, which actually makes my life super easy. I don't even have to give out those medals. They just happen. You just have to redeem it. See, there we go. Princess Monocle. Redeemed first. Okay, now let's look at this. This is to some degree good news, but not nearly enough. Thank you for the applause. Thank you. Thank you. Trying my best. I'm trying my best. How do you redeem a medal? You just have to have one channel point. Otherwise known as space money. You have to have one space dollar. And you get those by watching the stream on Twitch. Technically, you can watch on both and mute one. What was I doing? Hey, oh, look at that. A prime sub by Robot Cat. Robot Monkey Cat. And as you can see, Jeff Bezos is crying on the computer because you just took money directly from him and gave it to me. Very astute move. You now have access to 30 Twitch emotes. Provided by me. Obviously, some of them weren't made by me, but actually, a lot of them were. It's kind of 50-50 at least. All right. What am I doing? Got distracted. Oh yes, this. The FCC has now mandated labels for cable internet providers to start appearing this month. So at some point this June, we got like 9 more days, should become reality for everyone.
Sales are down, prices continue.
Hey, over here. Thank you.
Time now is 6:24, and wouldn't it be nice if shopping for internet service was as easy to read and simplified like an itemized invoice, even like a nutrition label?
Yeah, so starting this month, believe it or not, for a lot of customers, that is going to be a reality. Our Jennifer Krause explains the goal is to just give you accurate information for comparing plans.
Roland Netzer says his internet bill is confusing.
They run good deals at the beginning that after a while go away.
Unfortunately, we're often at the mercy of these companies who can charge us whatever they want, and they don't necessarily tell us what they're charging us. So at least with the broadband label, we should have some better sense of what we're paying for.
As you can see from this FCC sample, the new labels show the name of the provider, the name of the plan, and the base monthly price for internet service, along with any additional one-time or recurring fees like installation charges, modem fees, and other equipment-related fees.
This is all good, right? What I would love, though, is for them to also tell us just how much they colluded with the other companies, you know, to make sure that they all maintained monopolies. Because that's the thing that's been going on for too long that shouldn't be allowed, but the fact is you know, Comcast, Spectrum, which used to be Time Warner, they've all, colluded with each other essentially, and they only serve places where the other is not. Just like out of respect for each other, you know? Just being real friendly. And because of that, well, Americans get fucked. Okay, let's go on to this. This is from 13 hours ago, where the FAA is now investigating another incident involving a Boeing plane, which descended dangerously low on approach in, I think it was Oklahoma.
This morning, the FAA is investigating after a Southwest Airlines plane dropped to roughly 525 feet before making it to the runway. This image shows the plane when it climbs back into the sky after coming dangerously close with a residential neighborhood.
For some reason, they blew through an assigned altitude and continued and got very close to the ground.
The Boeing 737 making its approach into the Oklahoma City airport just after midnight Wednesday. The plane passing just over a high school about 9 miles from the airport.
Christ.
A low altitude alarm.
Now, we have been talking about Boeing quite a lot, and the fact is that this is one of the defects which had been pointed out by, I think, the first whistleblower, or at least one of the first whistleblowers pointed out that the altitude sensors, some kind of system, I can't remember the exact name of the system, but it helped regulate the altitude which planes are flying at, and would send planes into unexpected climbs and or dives. Just seems to be another of these incidents. Okay. Now, let's go to talk about the little company called Amazon, which has now been fined nearly $6 million for allegedly violating, I believe, labor law in its Inland Empire warehouses. This is from KCAL News.
Amazon facing millions in fines, and it all stems from issues at California warehouses, including Inland Empire locations. KCAL News reporter Nicole Comstock
It's like 6 cents to Bezos. You're right. You're right.
is at the Warehouse Workers Resource Center in Ontario with details.
Some of the workers at this press conference said they were so stressed out about meeting constantly changing quotas on the job that sometimes they would go into a room inside their warehouses known as the Zen Room and use it just to scream. The California Labor Commissioner says anytime someone's that stressed out about working that much faster, it can lead to injuries on the job. It's an incredibly convenient service for consumers, but what does Amazon's speedy delivery cost local workers?
We are constantly hoping we are moving enough to keep our jobs.
Nanette Placencia says her managers at the Amazon distribution center in Moreno Valley told her their quotas are set by a computer algorithm that changes day to day.
Humans are not algorithms. They are people. And this kind of stuff, you know what? It came to mind recently while looking at this. I don't know if anybody had seen the movie Elysium with Matt Damon. But that is what really comes to mind when I think about this. Is this sort of like just treatment of labor as if it's a machinery that's dispensable, right? If you I don't want to spoil the movie, so if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Or just the first 10 minutes, because that's what I'm talking about. Most relevant.
We are humans. Our safety is important to us, but they treat us like one of their robots.
Amazon has much higher rates of injuries than other warehouses in the area.
Deo Cornelio is with the Warehouse Worker Resource Center. They assisted the California Labor Commissioner's office on an investigation into 1,000 warehouses across the state, checking to see if they were all giving workers legally required written notices of their production goals or quotas.
So we unfortunately did not, were unsuccessful with Amazon in obtaining compliance from them.
Oh my god, this number is fucked. Is this a joke? How is this acceptable? Look at this. 59,000 violations. They only paid $5.9 million for that? What is that, $100 a violation? Come on. But for Amazon? We need to update some of these labor laws. They have penalties like it's still 1929. It's not. It's 2024. Oh my god. That is wild. I mean, I'm glad something's being done, but it's not enough. More needs to be done in this particular matter, because it's not just in this one place. I'll bet if we go across the entire United States, oh god, all right, let's move on. Environmental news. We're actually getting to it at a reasonable time today. Not sure how I managed to pull that off. I think it's because I pulled out one video, which would have been really fun to watch, but not that productive right now. Let's look at this. We've been talking about the fires happening in the West United States, as well as Canada, over the last few weeks, but over this last week, fires mostly in California, but just really along the West Coast, broke out even worse than they were earlier. Granted, fire season is now officially underway, but doesn't end for months. Now this fire came out of kind of nowhere. This is in Yakima County, which is in Washington. And it has now a wildfire has broken out in the county, prompting level 3 evacuations. Hold on. Just go to this. There we go.
We started forward with breaking news out of Yakima, where a wildfire is forcing mandatory evacuations. You see here in this viewer video just how close the fire is burning to an apartment complex. Right now, power is shut off in parts of the city as crews work to get the fire under control.
Take a look. This is the area under level 3 evacuations right now. The fire is burning on the east side of the Yakima River near Yakima Sportsman State Park. Multiple
Gun Club Road. Okay, I gotta say something. I've been complaining a lot about this feature, which has been causing me difficulty at different times. But I gotta say, now that I'm starting to utilize it, I actually like it. I like being able to highlight random shit on the screen. I don't know exactly how they're figuring that out, but it's kind of handy.
Side of the Yakima River near Yakima Sportsman State Park. Multiple videos show helicopters and airplanes dropping water on the fire. Right now, it's unclear how many people are under evacuation orders or if any structures have burned. An emergency evacuation center just opened at the Terrace Heights Elementary School.
So yeah, people are being evacuated out of the area as it's under threat. As you can see, that fucking fire is right next to that entire apartment complex, and you would assume a bunch of other structures. It's just where they happen to have the camera. Now let's talk about those California wildfires, which we were talking about earlier this week. As they are not yet out. They have been contained slightly more than they were previously. Ooh, nice Vergonia flags on the Twitch. Human rights. Wonder who made those flags. So good looking. Alright, let's start with this one just to kind of update us, remind us of what's been going on.
It's very hard waiting. You know, it's very scary. We didn't sleep at all last night.
Well, this morning, residents living near the Arrow Fire in Calaveras County waiting to get back home once again. And evacuation orders continue as the weather conditions shift. Welcome back to ABC 10 Morning News. I'm Jordan Tolbert.
I'm Conchetta Callahan. The firefight across our state has made significant progress, but the danger isn't over. Take a look.
So currently, firefighters are battling the Post Fire in Southern California along I-5, which has burned over 15,000 acres. It's now 39%.
So yeah, at this time, a couple days ago, there were these 3 fires that were all burning. Actually, there were 4 fires. There was the Post Fire, Sites Fire, Arrow Fire, and the Point Fire. They didn't even list it in this one. But there was like at least 40,000 plus acres all burning at the same time with little containment. The situation has slightly improved, as I said. Let's go to this. This is about the Point Fire specifically, where it was, at least 2 days ago, 50% contained.
Story that we're still following the wildfires, and crews are making progress on the Point Fire burning near Lake Sonoma. It's 50% contained at this hour. It started Sunday, and in 24 hours, it spread to 1,200 acres and destroyed 2 homes. 1 firefighter was injured, but will be okay. We'll continue to follow that.
Well, an air quality advisory now in effect because of the poor air quality conditions from these wildfires. Officials say you might smell smoke up in Sonoma, Napa, Solano counties, Lake County, things like that. Closer to the heart of the bay, we're doing okay. The sea breeze is keeping it clear, but obviously the closer you are to those fires, the worse the air quality is going to be.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, air quality is going to be a problem this year, I think. Considering how many fires we've already been seeing going, and it's only third week in June now, I guess. Wait, how does that work? No. 4th week technically now? Nearly the 4th. We're not there yet. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Yakima fire was contained? That's good. That is good. That's breaking news from O&O. I don't think that that was only from 2 hours ago, that story we just watched. So if you've somehow got breaking news for us, well, I appreciate it. Okay. Well, let's go to this. This is from 12 hours ago, ABC 10, where they kind of clue us in on the current state of these fires in California.
That is our top story this morning, as hotter temperatures are just around the corner. Welcome back. I'm Jordan Tolbert, and Conchetta, the increased heat means increased fire danger.
Oh, it certainly does. I'm Conchetta Callahan. Keep in mind, this week we've seen our busiest fire activity so far. We began last Saturday battling the Junes and Rocky fires in Butte County. Soon after, the Excelsior fire in Sacramento County put communities near Mather Airport in danger.
How do we miss all of
The Post fire
those?
in Southern California and the Point fire in Sonoma County both erupted around this time. As the work week began, the Sites fire burned several thousand acres in Colusa County. Meanwhile, the town of Copperopolis was put in danger by the Arrow fire, which forced evacuations and caused outages.
It's quite a name.
And as we end this week, there's progress on our state's firefighters have made on some of these fires. So take a look at this. These are the 3 fires that are currently the biggest ones burning across California. The Post fire in Southern California burning over 15,000 acres with 52% containment. The Sites fire in Colusa County, only 20% contained with over 19,000 acres burned so far. Meanwhile, east of Stockton, the Arrow fire now more than halfway contained with a little over 5,000 acres burned.
So, I mean, this is definitely good in terms of the containment has improved. That Sites fire is real concerning, though. It started off a lot smaller, and now it's at 20,000 acres burned at 20% contained. That's definitely the most concerning of all these fires at this moment. That's for sure. But this is all... It's all good, though, right? I mean, in terms of, you know, actual progress in this situation. I was concerned that it was going to get worse, but thankfully there was some amount of increased humidity, which did aid with the containment of these fires. But the rest of this weekend is supposed to be really hot, so it could undo some of what has been done by firefighters.
Donna, thank you. Hot today, and as we've been telling you, it's going to be hotter this week. And these folks in Griffith Park hit the trails early before the peak of the heat moved on in.
And dangerous night temperatures expected to hit our inland empire this weekend, and fire officials are warning everyone to stay safe. NBC4's Christian Cazares is live in Paris with what you need to know. Christian.
That's right. There are several things that we can do right now to stay safe during the summer months. Today we spoke to CAL FIRE, who says staying hydrated, staying in the shade, and also limiting your time outdoors are all some great tips to avoid a trip to the hospital. In a moment's notice, firefighters from CAL FIRE Station in Paris can roll out to any emergency. The summer season, they say, is their peak because of wildfires and heat-related calls.
I think we average out about 500 incidents a day, and that's just with the Riverside County. And I want to specify that that's just medical, I believe.
On Friday afternoon, those medical calls coming in within minutes from each other as the temperature held steady in the 90s.
And you could only imagine what the firefighters are wearing. It's way thicker. They have the big boots. They have all these layers on to protect them. And then if they're going into a structure or they need their oxygen tanks, that's also weight that you're putting on top of them.
Fire.
Yeah. It's a tough job. Okay. So yeah, it's going to continue to get hotter in Southern California with, I believe there's going to be triple-digit heat in some areas of California over the weekend here. But let's look at this, because this situation is just fucking tragic. And I think many of you already may be aware of this. I think because we looked at this earlier this week, but maybe some missed it. But an emergency was declared in New Mexico because a massive wildfire broke out in a place called Ruidoso. 2 different fires, actually, on both sides of the town. And burned at least 1,400 structures so far.
And good evening, New Mexico. It's like living in one of those end-of-the-world movies, or the village is a ghost town. That's just 2 of the things we are hearing tonight about one of the most beautiful places in the entire state. That would be Ruidoso. 2 massive wildfires are still burning there tonight. Thousands of people have had to simply leave the village and surrounding areas. We've also confirmed that 1 person has died. Those 2 fires are still burning out of control. Now, we want to give the people who live in the metro a little bit of perspective on just how big the fires are. When you add the acreage of both the South Fork and Salt fires, we're talking, as the governor mentioned, about more than 20,000 combined acres. That's approximately 32.5 square miles. That red box on the screen now shows just how much of Albuquerque these 2 fires combined would cover. You could say that's a pretty decent majority of the Northeast Heights. Tonight, we're bringing you complete team coverage of those wildfires, starting off with our very own Griffin Rushton. He joins us live from ENMU Roswell, which is just one of the many evacuation centers that is welcoming Ruidoso residents again tonight. Griffin.
Yeah, that's right, Trevor, and it is busy. There are at least 120 evacuees here tonight, and many, many more will be spending the night at...
You're at 30 likes? Okay, hold on. What is that? A 3. 3. Who's 3? Captain Planet. Okay, we haven't seen Captain Planet for a little bit, I don't think.
A dozen other evacuation shelters across southeast New Mexico. Now, that's more than we typically see during these wildfire events, but this is not a typical crisis. There are 2 wildfires essentially surrounding Ruidoso tonight. The South Fork fire on the north side and the Salt fire on the south side. Together, as we mentioned, they've scorched nearly 21,000 acres so far, which is a relatively small size compared to New Mexico's recent historic wildfires, but these have been incredibly destructive wildfires. According to the most recent update, fire officials estimate these fires have destroyed at least 1,400 homes or other structures. And
okay, now there's more to look at with all this. This is kind of a long video. We'll just watch this last part of it here.
For family members tonight.
Today, we have 2 devastating, enormous fires. And when I say enormous, it means that they're getting more and more complicated to address.
It's too early to tell just how far that devastation goes, but our crews got a good look at some of it today. More than 24 hours after the South Fork and Salt fires sparked near Ruidoso, and community members are waiting to learn what the future holds. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham says so far 1 person has died in the wildfires. She also says people are calling fire hotlines looking for family members, although she doesn't know how many people are missing.
I don't.
Oh, God. At least 1 person's confirmed dead. But with that many calls going into a hotline looking for family members, some portion of those are probably going to be people who have passed away from these. Really, honestly, like these fires happened really fast. We listened to accounts from people earlier. Specifically, I remember one man on, I think CNN, was saying that they had exactly 0 forewarning, and we're just told, leave. You have to leave now or you're going to die. And so they in fact left with practically none of their belongings, knowing that they could everything they leave behind could just be completely destroyed by this fire. Wow. Megastar going in with the emotes on Twitch. I appreciate you. Gotta use those emotes. Anyways, one thing that has happened, which is it's half of a miracle, half of a tragedy. A lot of rain recently hit New Mexico, and somehow this video didn't get saved into my list, so I don't know where it is. But just trust me, this happened. A ton of rain hit the area, specifically around Ruidoso, which did in fact help put out some of the fire, and help them contain it to some degree. But it was so much rain in some areas that it caused flash flooding. Which in fact caused them, I think, to have to rescue at least one person from the floodwaters. So it's just, sort of what's the bittersweet sort of event there. It's like, oh, thank God, rain. Oh shit, that's too much rain. But somehow I lost the video from this. Weird. May have been deleted for some sort of reason. You didn't know there was snow in New Mexico? There is, well, I mean, sometimes. There is a very mountainous area in New Mexico, so yeah, they get snow. Alright, now let's go further south and east, where the, what was the name of this storm again? Alberto. Hurricane Alberto slammed into both Texas and Mexico, causing flooding in both places. Let's start here with PBS. Oh, wait, that's right. This is, I totally forgot. I think this one.
Sweltering, dangerous heat here in Washington and across the east.
No, we're skipping you. Going straight to this one.
The day's other headlines: the first named tropical storm of the Atlantic hurricane season is brewing in the Gulf of Mexico. It bears the name Alberto, kicking off the alphabet for what's forecast to be a busy year for these storms. Alberto formed this morning some 300 miles southeast of Brownsville, Texas, with sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. Tropical storm warnings were in effect today along much of the state's southern shoreline. It's due to make landfall in northern Mexico on Thursday, an area that's already seen rough waves and heavy rains. Relatives of the victims of 2 Boeing 737 MAX crashes have asked the Justice Department to...
I just forgot. I totally forgot that this one is like a multi-vid. Why must they do this to me?
We begin tonight with dangerous weather on multiple fronts. The life-threatening heat about to get worse in many parts of the east, and the potential now for severe storms in the northeast, damaging winds. But we start with Tropical Storm Alberto slamming the Gulf Coast right now, the first named storm of the hurricane season. Texas Governor Greg Abbott tonight declaring a disaster across more than 50 counties already. Activating the National Guard tonight, tropical storm warnings in effect for the coast of Texas. Bands of fierce and heavy rain already, many communities underwater. They are warning about the potential for dangerous storm surge and a significant flash flood risk. Double red flags as far as Alabama. Orange Beach right here closed to swimmers due to life-threatening rip currents and high surf. You can see it there. The coastal community of Surfside, Texas, already underwater tonight. Homes flooded. First responders making high water rescues. Strong winds and heavy rain from Alberto's outer edge already reaching Padre Island, Texas, expected to last well into tomorrow. Ginger Z with the timing of the storm and the heat and where it gets worse by late week across multiple states in the east. But first, ABC's Melissa Adan leading us off in Corpus Christi, Texas tonight.
Tonight, Tropical Storm Alberto lashing the Texas coast, the first named storm of the season, pushing up to 4 feet of powerful storm surge over the seawall and into coastal communities along the Gulf of Mexico. A water spout spotted just offshore near Galveston.
Alberto slamming into the Texas Gulf Coast with these rough waves, heavy rain, and that storm surge sinking several boats at this Corpus Christi marina.
The bow of one boat and sail of another, all that's left above the water. Waterfront homes left battered. And beach towns like Surfside, Texas, underwater. This driver stranded in flooded streets, forced to abandon her car. But police were able to safely help the young women get to higher ground.
It's definitely worse than I expected, or I'd have been gone, you know. So I should have been more prepared.
Tonight, the Texas governor issuing a disaster declaration for 51 counties and activating the National Guard as the coast braces for up to 10 inches of rain, flash flooding, and possible tornadoes.
Yeah. And the thing about some of those images, you can see that many people are well aware of the risk of living in some of these areas, right? Where it would seem basically 100% of homes that aren't mobile are on stilts, like 10 feet in the air. Oh, God. All right, now let's go to this one. There's a bunch of footage of this. This is only the first tropical storm of the year, and there's more brewing right now in the Gulf of Mexico. Good luck getting insurance for beachfront properties. Yeah, we've talked about that. And the fact is, a lot of these places are completely uninsurable. And so they have FEMA there to bail them out when they, you know, inevitably have damage from these kinds of storms. But no insurance companies are going to touch a lot of these places. Wow. So this right here is from, this is in Mexico. And the, I don't know the name of this river, but a river in Mexico burst its banks, causing, well, kind of part of what you're seeing here. Officials issued warnings to residents in Monterrey, Mexico to avoid approaching streams. Several roads were closed and flights were canceled due to heavy rainfall and flooding.
Desde antier me abastecí con algunos víveres por si acaso. Me abastecí con
stocked up
agua
on
y lo más
groceries the day before yesterday with water and the basic
en mi
things. I protected
departamento,
windows
ventanas,
and
cristales,
glass in
todos
my
los
apartment just
protegí
as they did
como
here.
de manera similar aquí. Y tengo un
I have an
generador
electricity
de
generator,
energía,
rechargeable
pilas
batteries in
recargables,
case
todo
power
para
goes out.
en caso de que se vaya la luz o no vaya.
Well, this guy sounds extra prepared. I'm guessing most people aren't as prepared as he is. Okay, now let's go back north and quickly look at the heat wave, which has gotten as far north as Vermont in the United States.
Well, we are tracking a new possible tropical disturbance forming in the Gulf of Mexico, all while communities in the region deal with the aftermath of Tropical Storm Alberto. The first named storm of the season made landfall yesterday, bringing heavy rain and flooding to parts of Texas and Mexico. CBS News national correspondent Dave Malkoff joins us now from Corpus Christi, Texas. So, Dave, what is it looking like? And I see the wind is kicking up those waves behind you.
Hi, Lindsay. You can see the camera bouncing as well.
Happening?
The wind is the big.
This is not the one I meant to click.
This is our 4th or 5th year. This year is obviously a little challenging because of all the heat. You know, our kettle gets up to 150,000 BTUs and runs about 5 minutes, and the fans push the heat out right onto all of us. The hardest part is just kind of staying dehydrated. Staying hydrated.
Oh my god, this girl nodding over and over again about how hot it is. It's just classic.
It's hard to stay cool. We try to use all the fans.
Sometimes we bring towels and we put them in the freezer and then we put them on our necks. And that helps us.
It sucks. I live in Vermont for a reason. You know what I mean?
Know what I mean?
I've been this hot in my entire life. Drank 2 gallons of water yesterday. Yeah, I'm actually homeless.
You are?
Yes.
So where did you sleep last night? Where did you sleep?
Last night, I happened to fall asleep right over there, actually.
It must have been so hot.
It sucked. The mosquitoes are brutal this year.
It's rough. I was here all day yesterday for about 10.5 hours. Sweating. We had a kid. We had to send home.
So yeah, even in a place where you would expect it to not be hot, like Vermont, it is in fact very hot for everyone. Okay, now let's go back south here. Not sure why I put these two apart from each other, but let's look at this, where flooding in Mexico has forced a children's hospital to be evacuated. Rescue workers evacuated dozens of people from a children's hospital in Mexico after parts of it flooded. Heavy rain caused its drainage system to collapse.
Se evacuaron aproximadamente 80
Evacuated
personas que
approximately
estaban
80
aquí,
people
que
who
vinieron a
were
visitar
here,
a
who
sus
came to
familiares
visit
o
their
vinieron a
relatives, or
consulta
who came for a
y que
consultation,
finalmente
and
fueron
were ultimately
atrapados por la
trapped by
corriente
the
del agua.
water.
Entonces, lo que se hizo fue
So what we did was to coordinate, talk to them,
hablar
get
con
them
ellos
out using
y
vehicles
sacarlos a través de
and a
vehículos
bus
y
from
un
the hospital.
autobús
At the
que es
moment they
del
wanted to
propio
leave, it was
hospital,
not possible.
pero que en el momento en que ellos quieran salir no
There's
era
a strong
posible.
current. We have already made an evaluation. Yeah, these floods are affecting a whole lot of people. Now, if you missed this, this is a rare occurrence, but a tornado touched down in Chile, a place that does not frequently get tornadoes. This happened a couple days ago.
Esta era la pieza de mi nieta.
This is my
Afortunadamente ella no estaba durmiendo aquí, estaba durmiendo en el dormitorio de ellos, y dice que cuando despertaron con este estruendo que fue espantoso, vieron que las dos piezas estaban sin techo.
Nos resguardamos nomás,
y esperamos que
took
pasara.
shelter and
Y claro,
waited for it to
cuando
pass,
después salimos
and
a la
of
calle y vimos
course,
que mucha gente
when we
había
went out
salido,
onto the street, we
nos empezamos a dar
saw
cuenta
that many people had
de que
also
había
come out.
árboles
We didn't realize
caídos,
that there were trees down
postes también sacados de cuajo.
and poles that had been uprooted. We started to get an idea of what had happened. It's just a very odd weather event, which I feel like we kind of try and keep track of around here, considering the state of the world and our environment. Seems only right to do. Now let's go down here a little further to El Salvador, where 11 people died in flooding due to heavy rains there. Jesus, just everywhere, huh? Did you see how the water had taken a route like through a building? Like it's straight up coming out of this building. Wow. Water is gonna go wherever it is easiest for it to go through, and the fact that going through that building was somehow the easiest way did not deter it from going where it wanted to go. Wild. Okay. So this is a pretty disturbing trend, which we talked about on a previous stream. But it felt of high enough importance that we should talk about it again. This is from CBS News from 4 days ago, where a race to save fertile land is underway as soil degradation is threatening the global food supply.
June 17th marks World Day to combat desertification and drought. A reminder that the fight for healthy soil is a race against time. Every second, about 4 football fields worth of healthy land becomes degraded and low quality, posing a risk to global food. Every second.
Climate and everything are the same word.
Supply. About 52% of the Earth's agricultural land is already in this infertile state, according to the Save Soil movement, citing data from the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. If the current trend holds, 95% of the Earth could be degraded by 2050. Martin Frick joins me now. He's the director of the World Food Programme's Global Office in Berlin. Thank you for being with us.
Just very frustrating statistics. We're not going to go through this whole thing, but I just wanted to remind people of that if the current trend continues and we don't do things actively to save our ecosystem and the like the systems that we benefit from every single day, we're going to be in trouble. By 2050, 95% of all arable land will be too degraded to create food. And that's real bad. All right. Let's talk about the heat a little bit, because everybody seems to be experiencing excessive heat. From Canada to the United States, South America, Europe, Asia, pretty much everywhere. And so it does seem like the thing to talk about.
So hot right now.
Start with this one from Global News in Canada.
In New Brunswick, schools closed early because of sweltering temperatures. It was 35 degrees Celsius in some places, and with the humidex, that feels more like 45. New Brunswick remains under a severe heat warning. It's the same in much of Atlantic Canada and parts of Ontario and Quebec. The heat dome lingers, and there are threats of severe thunderstorms. Our chief meteorologist, Anthony Farnell, is keeping an eye on it. Anthony.
Donna, over the last several days, those thunderstorms have been few and far between, bringing little relief to the 30-plus degree temperatures and humidex numbers that topped 40 day after day. Today, we're finally starting to see things change. There are more thunderstorms, those big cumulonimbus clouds bubbling up, but it wasn't enough through Atlantic Canada to prevent record highs. In St. John, New Brunswick, 35 degrees. That was enough to set an all-time June record. Halifax, also the warmest temperature in the month of June, along with Newfoundland in St. John's, over 30 for the first time in June. So these are some incredible numbers.
Just for context for you Fahrenheit users, that's 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
Not just for the day, but for the month. And now our radar satellite is lighting up with showers, with thunderstorms, and that is the first sign that this heat dome is weakening and being pushed back down to the south. Now, over the next couple of days, there's still some humidity around, and that also means additional rain. Friday and Saturday, through much of the Great Lakes into the province of Quebec, and then eventually Atlantic Canada. But I think a lot of residents will take
Yeah, I think people will take some rain and thunder over being 95 degrees in June. So yeah, thankfully it won't continue all weekend for Canada, but it will be continuing for some other people. Let's quickly look at this from the Associated Press. Here's the effect of extreme heat and humidity on the body, according to them.
If it goes above 40 degrees, then we're entering a risk zone. Some people will be fine, some people won't, but this is where problems start to happen.
So this is actually wrong. We looked at a study recently that showed that, in fact, it's below 40 degrees Celsius. In fact, extreme heat, as it relates to the human body, is below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It's somewhere around 30 degrees Celsius, a little bit higher. But yeah, it's well below what they're saying here.
So the organs of the body can start to fail, or at least start to work less optimally. The reasons for this can be what's called protein denaturation. So proteins sort of start to, their shape changes, and some of them will start to pull apart. Okay, you get the very early signs of cooking, effectively. Internal systems in terms of heart rate increases. And there.
See, this is the wrong way to view it, right? To decide that it's when people start literally cooking, that's not a good place to start. That would be my criticism of this piece here. Let's remember, you shouldn't have to wait till you're cooking to be concerned about your health, okay? Okay, now let's look at this BBC article discussing the heat around the globe.
Welcome to the programme. We're going to start with the extreme weather that's being experienced across 4 continents, a sign that climate change may again help push temperatures beyond the record-breaking heat last summer. In Saudi Arabia, there are reports that more than 1,000 people have died, pilgrims at the annual Hajj festival, killed by the stifling heat. We'll have more on that in just a moment. In India, there have been several deaths in the capital, Delhi. Temperatures were reaching more than 50 degrees Celsius. In Europe, temperatures have also risen, with Greece experiencing its earliest ever summer heat wave. And in the United States, there are wildfires on one coast, made worse with high temperatures, and a tropical storm brewing on the other. Well, scientists from the World Weather Attribution have released a report today saying that human-induced climate change made recent extreme heat in the US Southwest, Mexico and Central America around 35 times more likely. In their new report, scientists said such a heat wave was now 4 times more likely than it was in the year 2000, driven by planet-warming emissions. Let's speak to Roop Singh, Head of Urban and Attribution at the Red Crescent Climate Centre. Her team helped develop the report. Thank you for coming on the programme.
Absolutely.
So just talk us through the headlines here.
Yeah, so the heat wave that we saw in Central America and North America is just evidence of the climate change that we're seeing around the world. In our attribution study, we found that climate change made the maximum temperatures 35 times more likely, and the nighttime temperatures up to 200 times more likely. And that's really significant because it's really the nighttime temperatures when your body is supposed to rest and recover that has impacts on human health. And that's what's actually causing a lot of these heat-related deaths.
And just remind us of the mechanism here. What is happening what is heating what to lead to these temperatures?
Yeah, so we know that climate change is caused by increasing greenhouse gases, and essentially those greenhouse gases act to warm the planet around the world, but they're also acting to sort of supercharge weather systems. So we're starting to see these heat domes and essentially heat stick around for an extended period of time in different parts of the world. We saw that in Mexico and Central America, and we're also starting to see that now in the northern and eastern parts of the United States.
So you said heat dome there. Just expand on that a little for us. What is it?
Okay. I think we get it.
So hot right now.
Let's go to this from 6 hours ago, talking a little bit more about this heat wave and its effects, not just on people, but and their health, but also on infrastructure, where a major power outage has now hit the Balkan region, as the countries in that area are sweltering under a massive heat wave as well. We are witnessing a regional emergency happening in the electrical and energy system, and to simply accuse Montenegro of being guilty of this would be extremely wrong. The problem arose as a result of a large increase of the daily load and very high temperatures. When you have those two causes connected, then you have a situation where you cannot transmit electrical energy through the power lines in the right way. That is, the lines are overloaded and the failure occurred. Yeah, this is what happens when it gets too hot. People jack up their air conditionings, and it overloads the grid. If the grid is not prepared for this kind of thing, there's some sort of demand with not enough supply. It can actually cause serious harm to the grid, and can cause failures, among other things. It's more complex than people tend to think, but this is what happens when you have this extreme heat, because also the heat itself puts pressure on the instruments involved, right? You know, things get a little melty at certain temperatures. Granted, most of the stuff is not made with very easily meltable stuff, but you know, get hot enough, pretty much anything will melt. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about what they had alluded to in one of the previous videos regarding the deaths of people in Saudi Arabia at the Hajj pilgrimage. And according to them, 1,000 people died so far in this pilgrimage due to extreme heat. Let's look at a couple of videos on this situation.
Nearly 2 million Muslims will complete the Hajj pilgrimage this week, but extreme heat has been fatal for hundreds who started the journey last Friday to the Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. According to reports, at least 562 people have died during the Hajj. Egypt has reported 307 deaths and 118 missing, with temperatures hitting over 124 degrees Fahrenheit. The Hajj timing is based on a year, moving back 10 days each year. While the Hajj is now moving towards winter, it will occur in the peak of the summer in Saudi Arabia by the 2040s. Climate scientist Fahad Saeed says these deaths hint at future risk for millions of Hajj pilgrims.
We need to prepare, we need to adapt, we need to introduce the adaptation option as much as we can, while realizing that it will compromise on the centuries-old ritual, but still we need to save people. But at the same time, we must do climate action to stop the global warming at 1.5.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about Saudi Arabia. You know, they're one of those countries that it's sort of in their best interest to ignore the threat of climate change as much as possible, but are in fact at great risk when it comes to the heat index increasing in their country. And this is an older video. This was at the beginning of all of this sort of happening. Let's go to this next one. This one was from more recently.
Hundreds of people are thought to have died during this year's Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia as temperatures in Mecca reach more than 50 degrees Celsius. Muslims travel from across the world to make the journey to the holiest city in Islam. Our religion editor, Alim Makboul, now reports.
In the searing heat of western Saudi Arabia.
I think we talked about those umbrellas, Jerry, if I'm not mistaken. At least I remember them putting them up. I can't be 100% sure that we talked about it on the stream, but
walking for several hours a day, surrounded by many hundreds of thousands of others, performing the 5 days of the Hajj is an arduous undertaking at the best of times. Some thrive in the adversity, but each year hundreds also die of conditions related to heat exhaustion. It may be months until we get the full picture, but given temperatures reached nearly 52 degrees Celsius, there have been fears the number that died this year could be much higher than normal.
For me, a person who has visited this blessed city for over 33 years, I have never seen such extreme heat and conditions.
52 degrees Celsius is 125.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Good God.
That's hot.
That is wildly hot. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think that the video that we watched before was the most recent video discussing this. So they're the most up-to-date number, but it sounds like somewhere near 1,000 people have died, and many more have suffered heat-related stress or fatigue in this pilgrimage. Me personally, I wouldn't be that stoked to go see a pillar that I would somehow risk that, but hey, I'm also not a Muslim or religious at all. So some of these sorts of things evade me in terms of sense. At least the justification of that. But let's go on, because there's other places that are dealing with extreme heat across the world. This is in China. This is from South China Morning Post, where severe drought has gripped large areas in China. China is facing a severe drought after heat waves in the country. Emergency responses were triggered in some provinces, including Henan, on June 12th. State media reported that rainfall has decreased 20 to 50% in some areas. Droughts lasting at least 10 days have been reported in all but one city in Henan province. 290 million people is the estimated number of people affected by these droughts. The drought has affected major areas for production of soybeans and corn. Beijing's agriculture ministry has warned of a high risk of crop seedlings being damaged. Since the wheat harvest this year, the weather has been dry, and peanuts and corn require irrigation. Before June, the town government dispatched personnel to overhaul more than 50 wells in our village. Now we can water the plants after connecting with the pumps, which is very convenient. In other provinces, farmers have little choice but to work in the sweltering heat. And you drink 15 to 16 bottles of water a day. Temperatures have been high recently, so I usually eat watermelon. The government also gives us heat stroke medication. Local governments have set up task forces to mitigate problems related to droughts, and officials have increased shipments of water to some provinces. Several county governments are urging residents to use less water. China's Weather Bureau has warned that the drought conditions are likely to worsen. Yeah, from one side of the globe to the other. Got heat and drought, and then floods. Floods and extreme rain. It's a weird combo. Gary loves you. It's true. Gary does love you. Alright, let's end this environmental portion of our stream here with two videos about Delhi. Specifically, if you're not familiar, in India. Where Delhi has experienced the hottest ever June night ever due to a heat wave. Just call it the heat wave.
Meanwhile, in India, the capital Delhi has experienced its hottest ever June night, with temperatures rising higher than normal by 6 degrees.
Now, just to remind you, we were just talking about it, how the heat at night is in fact one of the more problematic things for people because of the fact that the night is when your body is supposed to be doing most of its recovering. Oops.
Said it had seen 46 patients suffering from heat stroke this month alone. With more, here's our correspondent Samira Hussain.
Follow me. We're going to go into the critical care unit at this emergency ward in this government hospital here in central Delhi. And if you come in, you can see that half of the patients here are actually here because of heat stroke. I mean, this particular hospital primarily sees day laborers. So these are people that are outside, migrant workers that are in this heat, that are working outside. They also see a lot of elderly patients who are a lot more susceptible to these kinds of high temperatures. You know,
that mic is not blocking enough of those hard S's. That is killing my ears. Gotta move. Gotta move on to this next one. But that was from 2 days ago. This is from 3 hours ago, where finally, this is kind of a nice way to end it. New Delhi residents were hit by rains, which brought much needed relief.
If you see the next few days, this abatement firstly has been because in the west, because of western disturbance, southwesterly winds from the Arabian Sea has brought in moisture associated with which clouding and rainfall in some places has significantly brought down the temperature by 4 to 6 degrees, and in some places because of which the entire country is now out of heat waves.
We will get some relief from the intense heat. The people of Delhi were facing difficulty due to the extreme heat, but now that it is raining, we will get some respite from the heat wave. Prior to the rain, unrelenting heat waves created havoc with a spike in the case of heat strokes and other heat wave-related illnesses. A total of 192 homeless people died in New Delhi between June 11th and 19th, according to government figures. India recorded more than 40,000 suspected heat stroke cases this summer, and at least 110 confirmed deaths between March 1st and June 18th. Good God. We didn't even hear any of those statistics from anybody else but Global News. Okay. Sometimes Global News is doing their jobs real good. Not gonna lie. Other times, not so great, but they're doing better than some. Many, in fact. Oh my God. You know, I keep forgetting to do. But now that I'm streaming on Twitch again, I have to be more studious with remembering this very important aspect of the stream, as it is was the top of the hour, and due to that, we have to have a important message segment of this program. Need music. Music. Yeah. So as you can see behind me here, there is an asshole on this screen by the name of Jeffy Bezos. He, you know, has oftentimes done horrible things to his workers and said just completely tone-deaf sort of things like thanking all Amazon customers and workers for getting him to space and other ridiculous things like that. He's worth a ridiculous amount of money and owns too many things. Now, the best way for you to get back at Jeff Bezos in this particular moment is to use the free Prime sub on Twitch that you get with every Amazon Prime membership. That's right, you can just take money directly from Jeff Bezos and give it to me, your favorite streamer. Or, well, maybe. Depends. It's up to you. But, yeah, just think about that. You know, because some people are not even utilizing this benefit. It's just going completely unused. Essentially, giving Jeff Bezos even more money, which he does not need. Whoa, what just happened to my screen? Well, if you want to avoid this ad break on Twitch, you know what to do. Subscribe. You'd like to wipe the smile off that a-hole's face. Well, the best way to do that is to utilize that Twitch Prime sub that is essentially just robbing Amazon of money. Oh my God. Why is my stream software acting insane? This is unacceptable. Oh, I think I know why it is. That would actually make sense. Probably because I'm running that video in the background. If you don't give Bezos $120, you can give all kinds of money to streamers. That's true. That's also true. You could completely just not use Amazon. But if in fact you are, it's just just sitting there waiting. Okay, Nightbot, I don't need your negativity. My stream software will in fact work. I'll appreciate that. Oh god. It's not working. Well, it's kind of working. It's not working great. Well, it's that time. Galactic Intermission. Galactic Intermission, which is precluded by this capitalist advertisement. For yours truly. GalacticStreamLord, the guy who's running this whole shindig. We've been going 4 full months, nearly every single day. And yet I am not yet monetized on YouTube, which is becoming an ever-increasing problem to my being able to do this for you. And, well, it's something you can help do is by becoming a Patreon subscriber. That's right. Not only can you help me out, but you can get sweet, sweet benefits by subscribing on Patreon. Yeah, if that's not your deal, though, we do have the Twitch going now, so all of the, what do you call them? Twitch notifications should be coming through on the stream. So I will notice those while I am streaming, hopefully, usually. Anyway, one other thing you can do is tell everybody you know. Tell your mom and dad, tell your sister, brother. Tell that random guy on the street that GalacticStreamLord is on the case. As getting the YouTube monetized would be truly helpful at this point. What is next? Yes, actual break. So yeah, you deserve it. Grab yourself a drink, maybe a snack, maybe shake your arms and legs about to restore blood flow to your extremities. And I'll be right back.
Do you know what we're here for? Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
You've never seen it before. That's a picture that's on... That galactic artwork is on the Patreon. And you're a Patreon subscriber, so I don't know how you've never seen that. Wait, I gotta go back now. I'm like 100% positive about it. The Space Library. There it is. It's a Space Library. And that's art. But, yeah, it's on the Patreon. I'm quite sure. I wash my hands. Why would I need to wash my hands? I didn't utilize the bathroom. Whoa. I'm sideways. You're saying I shouldn't be discouraged? I'm not discouraged. The discouragement is not the issue. Maybe you can't tell, but this is important to me, what I'm doing. Even if the impact is small right now. The problem is the monthly impact financially, even though I live in a studio apartment, I mean a space station, is quite, you know, it's still very real, and unfortunately, this is not quite paying the bills yet. Thankfully, the Patreon subscribers have been helping, and people subscribing on Twitch now and donating gifts and things like that on there is also starting to become cumulative benefit, if you will, but still, you know, life is expensive. But no, I'm not discouraged. I'm merely concerned that I won't be able to do this in the same fashion at, you know, the same rate as I am right now if I were to be, you know, employed on a full-time basis. Do feel like it would cut into my time. All space apartments are studios. That's very true. Sticks makes a good point. I still have the space apartments I can afford. Let's go on to this, talking about space news. To get us into the global discussions, as usual, let's look at this from 3 days ago, where astronomers have witnessed a black hole awakening for the first time ever.
There was a black hole in a galaxy without any source of gas to fit the black hole. Now we have a source of gas. We don't know exactly what, but something happened between mid-2019, December 2019, that started feeding the black hole at the center of this galaxy. That's why we call it awakening, because normally when you see a black hole without any gas around it, you don't see anything. While when you have a black hole surrounded by material, then you can say, okay, this black hole is active.
When we are looking for black holes, we can't really see them directly and instead have to look for their effects on things around them. This makes them extremely tricky objects to look for, so anytime that anyone is discovered at all, it is a really impressive achievement.
Tell you it's next to the Earth, it's over quickly? No, can't tell you that. In fact, it's very, 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 very far away. Is that enough? It was like 5 varies. So no, won't be causing any problems for Earth, but it was a cool looking vid. That much I can say. Where are you getting all these sweet, sweet emotes there? Princess Moanoep. Very sweet, sweet emotes on the Twitch there. Are those standard Twitch emotes? Okay, let's look at this. Let's go to Europe here to start things off. This is Euro News from 3 days ago. Countries are facing growing drug shortages, with older medicines being the most vulnerable. Oh, I forgot it's got subtitles. You bastards. Many countries have been experiencing increasing medicine. You'd think it would have changed. The European Commission, meanwhile, announced. So yeah, they are trying to address the problem by working together, which it seems like a good plan. Hopefully that works. But you know, it kind of goes against all the things that they were complaining about in terms of why there were shortages during the pandemic. We were constantly hearing about, oh, well, we can't go into work. Well, now we can go into work, in fact, and yet still we have problems. Might be a problem with late-stage capitalism. Just thinking out loud. Now, let's look at this. Talk about some bad capitalists. This is a company I'd actually never heard of before, called Carrefour. I'm not exactly sure if I'm saying that correctly, but it is a French company, but also has, I guess you'd call them franchises in Canada and even I think some other countries, but I can't remember which ones they are. But it is now facing a record $215 million fine from, I believe, an EU court, alleging unfair business practices as it regards to their some of their franchisees, I believe.
France's finance ministry has asked a court to fine retailer Carrefour a recommended $215 million. It said the penalty is over contracts with franchise stores that the ministry says were unbalanced in Carrefour's favour. In a statement on Tuesday, the ministry's watchdog said its investigations had found several companies in the group engaging in practices contrary to the French commercial code. The watchdog said it asked the commercial court in Rennes to declare several clauses of the contracts null and void, and to impose a financial penalty on the group. The ministry's complaint is part of the proceedings brought by nearly 170 franchisees at the end of 2023, the watchdog said. Carrefour denounced the move, called the amount of the fine unfounded, and contested the ministry's, quote, grievances. It said that the ministry was intervening in a dispute that began several months ago without providing new information on the merits. The French retailer also said it had, quote, full confidence in its ability to demonstrate the validity of its contracts. These statements confirm a report from a French daily newsletter which published a legal complaint from the ministry on Monday. It claimed Carrefour's contracts with franchisee stores contained, quote, a significant imbalance. This legal document recommended a $215 million penalty, which the news outlet said was a, quote, record civil fine. It also demanded that the company immediately amend around 10 clauses in the franchise contracts, with a penalty of €50,000 per day if it failed.
Wow, 150,000 euros a day. That's quite a fine. Now, I'm pretty sure they can afford this fine, but I just found it interesting, as well as sort of like a parallel story to many things we've been talking about regarding unfair business practices in the United States. And so, yeah, no, that just seemed like a good outcome there. One place. Now let's go a little bit east to Italy, where Giorgia Meloni is facing some amount of opposition. As she tries to push through some very unpopular reforms in Italy.
Giorgia Meloni called it the mother of all reforms. Her government has proposed constitutional changes to allow for the direct election of Italy's Prime Minister, aiming to achieve government stability, strengthen the Prime Minister's role and ensure, as Meloni said, that Italians choose who leads the country.
On Tuesday, the Italian Senate voted in favour of the reform, although more rounds of voting are expected to take place in the next few weeks. Alongside this, the Italian Parliament has started debating a proposed reform that would grant more autonomy to Italian regions, a proposal that has been put forward Salvini's League Party. But in a rare show of unity, opposition parties, in particular the Democratic Party and the Five Star Movement, have joined forces and have decided to take to the streets chanting unity, unity.
Mi appello a tutte le forze di opposizione.
Critics say that the reform could trigger chaos in the future, saying that ability to respond to crisis will be limited. Are they fascist reforms? It is Giorgia Meloni, so I don't know the exact details of these reforms. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to research this one today, but I could. If you forced me to bet, I would put my money on yes. That said, can't be 100% sure. I'll probably look into it more later. Okay. Fascism didn't work well for Italy the last time. Yeah, well, a lot of people in Italy have kind of forgotten that. I'm not sure it's necessarily the majority, but we have seen some absolutely wild videos coming out of Italy in regards to the far right and their love of Mussolini, among other sorts of fascist things. It's a disturbing trend that's going on there. Alright, let's go to this. This is a different but somewhat intertwined situation. This is from 2 days ago. according to Euro News, a ship has wrecked off of the Italian coast, leaving at least 11 people dead and dozens missing.
"64 people were missing in the Mediterranean Sea, and several were rescued after their ship wrecked off Italy's southern coast on Monday. The search and rescue operation started following a Mayday call by a French boat, the Italian Coast Guard said in a statement. The boat was sailing in a border area where Greece and Italy carry out search and rescue operations. The survivors and the people still missing at sea came from Iran, Syria, and Iraq, the UN agencies said. The Italian Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre immediately diverted 2 merchant vessels sailing nearby to the scene of the rescue. One of the 11 rescued migrants died soon after, the Coast Guard said.
It's just tragic. And I wouldn't rule out foul play. We've already seen a bunch of just wild things the governments have been doing to migrants crossing the Mediterranean. Like Greece, I think this is the most recent example that we looked at from, must have been last weekend, something like that, where Greece has been accused of committing human rights violations, throwing people literally into the water, basically shipping them back without even hearing their asylum requests, things like that. Now let's go to a different humanitarian situation. This one is something we've been talking about quite a lot. And finally, because I've been saying it over and over again, UN peacekeepers have gone to visit South Sudan to assess the humanitarian situation. Let's go to Africa. We congratulate UN for having built 3 classrooms for Nadia Anger. We will continue to move forward. Go to school to get an education and to carry out agricultural activities. The government will stand together with them and work hand in hand for the development of this country.
This is your time, you're most welcome.
We ran into the bush, then started moving. After a while, we reached Nadia Anger to get food. There's no way to be taken to the hospital. No access to communication or ways to talk with my sibling, who remained behind. Now, they have not yet made a determination as to what is going on, but I think from what we've seen, there's clearly forced starvations happening, ethnic cleansing happening. There's other sorts of crimes that are being committed by the different forces in Sudan, being the RSF and the what's the other military? Oh god, I can't remember. I think we all know that unfortunately in that situation there's multiple things that need to be addressed, and multiple people at fault for the various problems happening. Which type of peacekeepers? The soldiers, the bureaucrats? They appear to be bureaucratic UN peacekeepers. Did not see any actual soldiers. What just happened? What just happened? I just lost my list. Where's my list? Oh my god, there it is. Phew. That threw me off. Okay, we're gonna talk Russia, Ukraine for a little bit. Russia's been very busy lately. This is from a day ago where Russia has obliterated multiple Ukrainian towns and has expanded its air attacks.
Russia is intensifying its use of cheap glide bombs to lay waste to cities in eastern Ukraine. It has nearly unlimited supplies of the bombs, which are adapted from Soviet-era stockpiles. The retrofitted bombs struck Kharkiv's epicenter shopping center.
Thank you for telling my list. I appreciate that, BCat. My list needs to learn sometimes. Just, you know, don't cause more problems.
In May, killing 19 people, including 2 children. Nina Korshinova was working there and was seen on CCTV walking across the store when the first bomb landed.
Був потужний вибух. І мене закинуло під вітрину.
The shockwave threw me under the display. I was swept away. I fell down.
Я впала, закрила
Covered my face with my
руками
hands.
обличчя і
I went to the fetal position and I laid there like this for some time.
І так лежала
I felt something
какой-то
crumbling
период.
on top of me.
Я чувствовала, что что-то сыпаться
I
на
was
меня
wearing my
начинает. Я
uniform.
была в рабочей форме, в рабочем жилете.
With my head raised.
Когда начала
So the
поднимать
second
голову,
explosion,
я побачила інший
like a
потужний
comet
вибух.
flying, I covered my face for the
Така як
second time.
комета влетіла. І я знову закрила
I didn't hear
обличчя.
anything.
Я вже нічого.
Cancel the list? Without the list, we don't have the stream. It would be undoable. It would be out of control. I guess that's not true. I could just stream randomly and without purpose. But that would be... I feel that would be less beneficial for everybody, including my mental health. Okay. That would be listless. Yes, in multiple ways. Okay. Let's look at this troubling story from 7 hours ago. This is from PBS NewsHour. According to them, Ukrainian children are appearing on Russian adoption sites. This had some very fucked up vibes.
A recent investigation by the Financial Times found that Ukrainian children were taken by Russia in early months of the war and put up for adoption by Russian authorities. To discuss these revelations and what it could mean for Russia, I'm joined by Wayne Jordash, president of Global Rights Compliance and International Humanitarian Law Firm. Let's start from the beginning. What did this latest investigation reveal about what happened to these Ukrainian children?
There is a pattern of children being abducted into Russia or into occupied parts of Ukraine by the Russian military. Evidence shows that there are 3 broad scenarios. One is where the Russians occupy a particular piece of territory and they empty the orphanages and they take the children into Russia. There are scenarios where adults are separated from their children during security screening, so-called filtration by the Russian military. And then there are examples of children being separated during armed conflict. And again, those children ending up in Russian-occupied territory or in Russia itself.
And we reported last year that some 20,000 Ukrainian children were forcibly deported to Russia or Russian-controlled parts of Ukraine, as you say. You're based in Ukraine now. Have you heard any
20,000 children have been taken by the Russians. It is disgusting. I was not aware of this until I saw this video. I mean, I knew about the like we you know, we paid a lot of attention to this, honestly. And when I heard this, I was just absolutely shocked. And they go into it further and talk about how many of these children are being essentially assimilated into Russian culture, which is why they're being put up on these adoption sites within Russia. And it's just got these sort of fucked up vibes. I don't know if anybody's familiar with what happened in Austria in the early part of the 20th century, but it's got vibes like that. Those kind of vibes. We're gonna make Ukraine Russia again. Ah, God. Okay, now I'm not done talking about Russia because, like I said, they've been pretty busy. So let's go to this. Ooh, Donald James with some very fancy flags in Twitch chat. I like that. Just kind of scrolling. So if you didn't hear about it, Vladimir Putin went to North Korea to solidify his relationship with North Korea, which is something that has been essentially he's ignored North Korea to some degree for quite some time. Had not made a appearance in the country for decades, but recently visited the country. Now, let's look at this real quick to get us into this discussion. This was Anthony Blinken's response to Putin visiting North Korea.
With regard to Mr. Putin and his travels to North Korea, look, we've seen, as you've said, Russia try in desperation to develop and to strengthen relations with countries that can provide it with what it needs to continue the war of aggression that it started against Ukraine. And you heard the Secretary General just reference this. North Korea is providing significant munitions to Russia and other weapons for use in Ukraine. Iran has been providing weaponry, including drones, that have been used against civilians and civilian infrastructure.
Putin's visit to North Korea demonstrates and confirms the very close alignment between Russia and the author.
Before this guy gets going, I just found it very frustrating to have Anthony Blinken be the one to say these things, because he's been the one who's been justifying us sending munitions to Israel while they do what they've been doing. And I don't think he would want us to be held to the same standard as North Korea.
In states like North Korea, but also China and Iran. We are of course also concerned about the potential support that Russia provides to North Korea when it comes to supporting their missile and nuclear programs. We see how much military support Russia gets from North Korea, but also from Iran, and how China is propping up their war economy.
Time appointment because of...
Yeah. I mean, China has claimed that they are completely neutral, and what neutral means to them is being economically involved with everybody. And I guess that means neutral, depending on how you want to define it. Now, let's go quickly to this from BBC News, where they discuss China's and Russia's relationship in a little bit more detail.
Secretary, great to sit down with you. Thank you so much. I want to ask you, first of all, about this piece of news that we saw that Russian President Vladimir Putin is going to travel to North Korea for a 2-day visit. And a Kremlin aide has been quoted as saying that the visit would include a partnership agreement which would need to include security issues. What do you make of this?
It demonstrates how Russia now is aligning more and more with authoritarian leaders, Iran, Beijing, but also with North Korea. And North Korea has delivered more than 1 million shells for artillery to Russia. So North Korea is helping Russia to conduct a war of aggression against Ukraine. And in return, Russia is delivering technology for their missile and nuclear programs.
Will there be a specific NATO response to whatever this agreement looks like?
Well, our response has been clear all the way, that this just shows how dependent Russia now is on other authoritarian powers.
I can't stand the audio for this video. It's killing me. They have it split up between left and right, and it is wildly annoying. You think I got some cool emotes? I appreciate that. It did take quite some time to get it all done. With I think there's like at least 30 emotes available to subscribers. And in fact, there's like 5 available to followers as well. Just for following on Twitch, you get emotes. Although the follow emotes aren't nearly as cool as the subscriber emotes, because they got animated emotes, which are pretty sweet if you ask me. Might be a little biased. Okay, let's look at this from the South China Morning Post from 3 days ago, where they discuss China's calls for peace talks on the Ukraine war. Now they're asking for Russia and Ukraine to actually meet. You'll see here. Hold on. This conference gathered delegations from all big countries trying to end the Ukraine war. Moscow was not invited to participate in the summit for peace for Ukraine. Beijing skipped the summit. China has maintained any peace process should include Russia. Instead, China called for Ukraine and Russia to hold direct negotiations to end the war. Quote unquote, China calls on the parties to the conflict to demonstrate political will, come together and start peace talks. Holy shit, that was too fast. Start peace talks as soon as possible to achieve a ceasefire and halt military actions. That's Geng Shuang, who is China's deputy representative to the UN. The call was made on the evening of the Swiss-led conference. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky hit out at China's absence. I believe that China could help us. And that's why I would like proposals on the Chinese side to be made within our dialogue. I cannot perceive proposals made in media outlets. Do you understand? It's not correct. We're talking about ending the war. There are thousands of victims. Conquered territory, burned houses. Zelensky accused China of helping Russia pressure smaller countries to skip the event. Beijing denied the accusations. China has consistently proclaimed its neutrality in the conflict. Yes, they have done that. Okay, well, let's switch. I kind of set this up this way on purpose. Let's switch to some stuff regarding North Korea here now as we head east. Although there's going to be even more stuff to talk about with China. It's interesting. There's a lot happening in Asia right now. This is from 14 hours ago from BBC News, where, according to them, North Korea is now building up a border wall along the DMZ, which was not there before.
North Korea is building sections of what appears to be a wall in several places near its border with South Korea. That's according to new satellite images analysed by BBC Verify. The recent activity is unusual and comes at a time of rising tensions between the two countries. The images also show that land inside the demilitarised zone has been cleared, which experts say could be a violation of the long-standing truce with South Korea. Jake Horton is in the BBC Verify hub with more.
Reunification between North and South Korea has seemed unlikely for years, but it had been the stated goal for both countries. That changed at the start of the year, when the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, announced that his country would no longer pursue that ambition. Now, BBC Verify has obtained new satellite images, which show that North Korea has begun building what appears to be sections of wall near the border with South Korea, which you can see highlighted here. We've identified several structures which have been recently built, which combined cover about 1 kilometre of land. These barriers are near the eastern end of the demilitarised zone between North and South Korea, which is known as the DMZ. This is effectively a buffer zone between the two countries, which are still technically at war because they never signed a peace treaty more than 70 years after the end of the Korean War. Now have a look at the long continuous structure in this image, which was taken earlier this month. The exact date construction began is unclear due to a lack of previous high-resolution imagery in the area. But this image, which was taken at the end of last year, shows that the barrier clearly wasn't there. We have also found evidence that land has been cleared within the North Korean controlled side of the DMZ. This image, which was taken at the end of last year, shows no land cleared. Now look at this image which was taken earlier this month. You can clearly see a strip of land has been cleared inside the North Korean controlled end of the DMZ. This activity so close to that border is unusual according to experts we spoke to. They say it could be for military purposes and so could go against North Korea's long-standing truce with South Korea. The South Korean military have said they are aware of the construction and are monitoring the situation closely.
Yeah, that's a little concerning. It's a little concerning. It's just a continuation of these escalations that have been happening between South and North Korea, and actual peace needs to be found there too. It's enough is enough. We're getting too close to problems that we don't need between those two countries. And I mean, we've been talking about the escalations for a while now, right? And I mean, to some degree, the United States and other nations coming to South Korea to do drills are seen as provocative. by the North Korean government. But we've also seen these poop balloons escalate into increased tensions along the DMZ. Was it South Korea? Yeah, South Korea started like blasting propaganda at North Korea about how shitty North Korea is across the border. Although it's like whatever, it's like a kilometer away or something like that, so not the most effective strategy. We've also seen North Korea testing missiles quite a lot recently, including intercontinental ballistic missiles, which could potentially contain nuclear warheads. It's all bad. Everybody just needs to chill the fuck out. But, well, that's not, people aren't quite ready to chill out, unfortunately. Let's go to this, where Chinese Coast Guard vessels rammed into Philippine military boats in the disputed waters outside of the Philippines. This is childish and also problematic. Now, the fact is this shoal was really just a grouping of rocks in the middle of the ocean, adjacent to the Philippines. It's pretty far away from China. China decided to declare it was theirs and built something of a island base on it and started disputing this. This has been going on now for quite a while. I think, God, at least 15 years, maybe longer. But it's just the it's just the epitome of this sort of escalatory behavior we keep seeing in Asia. I mean, everybody just needs to chill the fuck out. Instead, the opposite of that's happening. And it doesn't even seem to be for the best or even good reasons from anyone, in most cases. Just the aggression. I'm just not a fan of it. I prefer less. We are currently experiencing the most number of armed conflicts since World War II ended. You know? It just causes me concerns. I don't think these are even being counted as armed conflicts. What is that emote? Don James with some I cannot determine. I cannot see what that is. MIDI doctors with a lot of beautiful emotes in chat as well. Alright, what was I doing? Ah, yes. Let's quickly listen to part of this Al Jazeera English video discussing this altercation between China and the Philippines yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry.
Now, live from Beijing, Katrina, tell us about what the Philippines has said about this incident.
Well, Well, they haven't just said or described what's happened. They've released a number of videos and images really quite explicitly describing or showing what happened, they say, on June 17 when Philippine vessels undertook a mission to resupply the grounded warship, the Sierra Madre. They say that they were swarmed and outnumbered by Chinese vessels, that during the incident, the Chinese Coast Guard was blaring sirens to disorient Philippine sailors, that they were brandishing pointed weapons, including machetes and axes, and that when they boarded, they essentially acted like pirates, looting and destroying equipment. Now, the Philippine side has called this basically an act of piracy. One sailor was injured, he lost his thumb, and a Philippine general has demanded that all the confiscated equipment be returned and that the Chinese Coast Guard pay reparations for all the damage incurred during this incident.
And Katrina, those are some strong accusations from Manila. How has Beijing responded to those?
Absolutely strong words from Manila. Very, very different language used by Beijing. They say that the Chinese Coast Guard professionally boarded and inspected these Philippine vessels when they illegally intruded into this area Beijing considers Chinese territory that it calls Renai Reef, with not only resupply equipment but also reconstruction equipment to really reinforce this grounded warship. The language used by Beijing said that the
I guess as long as it was professional, nothing to see here then. Everything very professional, although it's being declared as an act of piracy by Philippines. Does seem unnecessary. I preferred the water cannons, not gonna lie. This seems like an escalation from the water cannons. You know, see, this is my naivete. You know, I was a fan of the poop and the propaganda balloons. I thought that was childish, but better than war. And then that escalated into something worse. Then I thought that the water cannons were kind of funny. And now they're just ramming each other and stealing shit. It's getting out of it. I just don't like the escalations. You know, that's me. Prefer we had less. More peace, please. Okay. Now let's actually loop back a little bit here to talk about India. This is from Democracy Now! From 4 days ago. Arundhati Roy faces anti-terror prosecution in India as Modi expands his crackdown on critics. No, not that video. This video. Go web go. Thank you. Great. That was a great job.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The acclaimed author Arundhati Roy could soon face trial under India's contested anti-terror laws after an official from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's far-right BJP party gave the go-ahead for her prosecution. The charges against Roy stem from...
Now, you can't tell everything about a person just by looking at them. But she does not give off terrorist vibes.
She made about Kashmir in 2010. This is an excerpt of those comments. Listen closely.
Kashmir has never been an integral part of India. However aggressively and however often you want to ask me that, even the Indian government has accepted in the UN that it's not an integral part of India. So why are we trying to change that narrative now?
Free speech advocates have expressed outrage over the persecution of Arundhati Roy, as well as other critics of Narendra Modi, who was sworn in last week to his third term as prime minister, albeit with the BJP having lost its parliamentary majority in a stunning setback. Last year, as Arundhati Roy was awarded a European Essay Prize in Switzerland, she warned that Modi's Hindu nationalist rhetoric and policies were spreading throughout Indian society.
It is no longer just our leaders we must fear, but a whole section of the population. The banality of evil, as Hannah Arendt would have called it, the normalization of evil is now manifest in our streets, in our clubs.
Hold on, we cannot watch this whole thing. It's like 30 minutes long. But I do want to watch parts of this. They have, oh god, what's his name? They do have a guest on here.
By the award-winning author and journalist Siddharth Deb. His most recent novel is The Light at the End of the World. His new nonfiction book is Twilight Prisoners, The Rise of the Hindu Right and the Fall of India. He's also professor of literary studies at the New School here in New York. Siddharth, welcome back to Democracy Now! Talk about what we have just learned, the possible prosecution of Arundhati.
Hi, Amy, thanks. It's good to be back, but always under terrible circumstances. Yes, it's so convoluted, it's very hard to figure out what is going on, but that is precisely the point in Modi's India with these terror charges and the kind of, trumpeting it on media. But my understanding is that this is a seminar that Roy took part in 2010 with a number of people. It was a public event. There was obviously a lot of media there. And
just in her speaking now, we saw it was like a press conference where you had mics from everywhere.
Right. And it was meant to be a kind of a public sort of discourse or some discussion on Kashmir and its very, very troubled status within India. And
could you actually stop for a second, though I asked you about Arundhati, and explain the status of Kashmir?
Well, as far as Kashmiris are concerned, it is militarily occupied by the Indian state, and it's very hard to argue against that. I was there myself in 2014, actually to write a profile of Arundhati Roy for the New York Times Magazine. And, Kashmir, like certain other parts of India, including the Northeast, which is where I grew up, is under, there is very little in terms of civil liberties. There is almost nothing in terms of civil liberties. And, Kashmiris see India as an occupying imperialist force in Kashmir, and justifiably so, given their experience, especially in the last 30 years. But these are not things you can say in India. This could be what I just now said, could be construed as anti-national, is by Modi and the Hindu right and the media.
When anti-nationalism is a crime, you're in a fascist state.
The mainstream media.
Who ordered all the fascists and can we return them? I think the return policy on fascists is, well, no, I'm not gonna.
Which is completely behind him. But the point isn't really about Kashmir. The point is really about the fact that the Hindu right don't want anyone like Arundhati critiquing the government, critiquing its policies, not just on Kashmir, but that it is completely, it's a fascist political party. It is against all minorities, it is against women, it is against the poor, and that is what Roy has been speaking up and writing about for over 30 years. And that's what they're against, and they want to shut down not just speech, they want to shut down thought, and that's what this is about.
So talk about what happened, because Narendra Modi was reelected to a third term, which is almost unprecedented.
Well, yes, but I think it's pretty much accepted both by the Hindu right as well as the opposition that it was a stunning electoral reverse, because they did not achieve a majority. They lost the parliamentary seat in their sort of showpiece, which was the Ram temple built on the site of a demolished mosque in Ayodhya.
And explain the...
Yeah, and that mosque was a big deal to the Hindu nationalists and was a promise made by Modi to those people that a Hindu temple would be built on top of a site where a mosque was razed, meaning it was burnt to the ground by Hindu nationalists, and was then converted into a temple. Modi went there on television to, what's the word, consecrate it, or whatever the word is, and it was it's pretty gross sort of combination of this sort of ethno fascism, right? This religiously intertwined nationalist ideology that's taken hold in India. Now, this last election was in fact something of an indictment on that very state of affairs, but he still was elected as the new prime minister, and there were still plenty of Hindu nationalists elected to government. It just happened to be a lot less than they had been projecting and expecting. It wound up costing them the majority, which may in fact necessitate them to pull back on some of these radical policies of theirs. Not that I have a ton of faith in that actually coming to fruition, but just trying to be optimistic. Let's listen to a little bit more of this interview.
With who Arundhati Roy is, the author of, among many other books, The God of Small Things. I think she was the youngest at the time winner of the Booker Mann Prize. Can you talk about who Arundhati is in India and how she is known around the world?
Yes, I've written, I mean, one of the chapters in the recent book is the profile that I did of Roy from 2014. And essentially, Roy, in some sense, comes out of nowhere in the Indian context, which is deeply hierarchical. And she won this Booker Prize for this amazing first novel. And she was feted around the world, including by the Indian elite. But the trouble with the elite, the Hindu right, began when the BJP actually won the elections in 98, and they celebrated by carrying out nuclear tests. And this was greeted with wild, rabid nationalist fervor, not just among the Hindu right, but by the liberals in India, because this was seen as a sign of a new, strong India, not Gandhian, not non-aligned, not committed to peace, but a military, macho, masculine society. And Roy wrote an essay called The End of Imagination, where she really mourned this. She saw this as a kind of the end of something better and the beginning of something very vile. And she was absolutely right. And she went from being this sort of poster child of brand India to becoming anti-national public enemy number one among the elite. And, you know, and Roy took that on with gusto.
It's funny how that works, you know? You have somebody who's held up as a symbol of the country, but the second that they have any sort of criticisms for that very system, they're shunned, or, you know, in this case, treated as literally a criminal for it. And yeah, this is part of the problem with us calling India a functioning democracy, because it is. Really, there's a lot of this. This is only one example of this, right? We talked about numerous examples of political figures being jailed during the run-up to the election. Hold on. There's more to this. How far are we into this right now? Okay, this isn't
An
this last
Indian
part.
citizen accused of attempting to kill a Sikh separatist in New York has been
Whoa.
extradited to the
What's happening?
U.S. ahead of an expected federal court appearance, people with knowledge of the situation confirmed. The defendant, Nikhil Gupta, has been charged with murder for hire linked to a foiled plot to assassinate Gurpatwant Singh Pannan, a dual U.S. and Canadian citizen who advocates for an independent Sikh state. Can you explain what this is all about?
An assassination was already carried out in Canada of a Sikh separatist leader, presumably by Indian agents. That is what the Canadian government brought to the Indian government to Modi's notice. They were apparently tipped off in this by US intelligence. So, but the thing is, this is entirely about posturing. None of these, the Sikh separatist movement is not very strong politically anymore. These are people, they have views, but this is entirely about the Hindu rights posturing to its domestic audience. And what they are saying, and to some degree it was successful, is that they are saying, look, we can do what the US or Russia does. We are as strong and as violent as the strongest, most violent states in the world.
Nobody should be aspiring to that. Stop aspiring to that, please. Jesus Christ.
Jesus, I say that.
Oh my God. Don't be assassinating people. Extrajudicial assassinations in other countries. That is not. Come on. Come on, man. That is not acceptable. And the fact is that Sikhs in India are an ethnic community that are often, what's the word? On the receiving end of racism and other sorts of basically anti-anybody, not Hindu policies. They are caught up in all of that as well. And yeah, persecuted is a good word. It's a good word. Okay. Let's move away from India and talk a little bit about the United States. Not the United States, well, the United States in regards to Israel and Gaza. This was Bernie Sanders a couple of days ago reacting to Benjamin Netanyahu accusing the United States of withholding arms, which is something we should actually be doing but are not.
Earlier today, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a video attacking the United States for not sending him bombs fast enough.
But I also said something else. I said it's inconceivable that in the past few months, the administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel.
No doubt we will hear similar complaints when he addresses Congress on July 24th.
The administration is working day and night to remove these bottlenecks. I certainly hope that's the case.
I had almost forgotten that he was still coming to Congress. It's
the Israeli
wild.
government did not and does not have the right to go to war against the entire Palestinian people.
Fact is he should be arrested the second that he touches U.S. soil.
And yet, that is exactly what has happened.
Israel, America's closest ally, fighting for its life, fighting against Iran and our other common enemies.
Let's be clear. The right-wing extremist Netanyahu government has killed more than 37,000 Palestinians and injured nearly 85,000.
And I say, give us the tools and we'll finish the job a lot faster.
Okay. Now, hold on. We got more.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.
Amy, settle down. Okay. Now, let's get into it here. I should make a citizen's arrest. It's funny. But it is a good plan. I think we should do that. This is a citizen's arrest.
Illegal.
Okay. Yeah, let's watch this Democracy Now! Video where they had on Holocaust scholar Roz Siegel, who has lost his job after saying, I'm sorry, he lost a job offer, which had already been given to him, for having said that Israel is committing a genocide.
I don't want reality.
The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We turn now to the acclaimed Holocaust and genocide scholar.
Where's the good news? I think I saw somebody say, where's the good news, by the way? And, you know, I don't make the news, right? I'm just bringing you different bits and pieces of the news. I try to find things that are positive. I mean, we saw that maybe housing is going to get cheaper for people soon. It's starting to. That's positive. What else did we see that was positive and happy? Some Italians weren't a fan of Giorgia Meloni and are teaming up to try and stop her bullshit. There wasn't a lot, but you know what? I'm doing what I can.
Roz Siegel. 8 months ago, the Israeli-American historian became one of the first scholars to accuse Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. Professor Siegel laid out his case in a widely read article for Jewish Currents, headlined, "A Textbook Case of Genocide." The piece's subtitle was, "Israel has been explicit about what it's carrying out in Gaza. Why isn't the world listening?"
You know, when you have a Holocaust scholar calling something a genocide, I think your ears should probably be perking up.
Professor Siegel went on.
And I think the exact opposite of that reaction is to fire somebody with those kinds of credentials for doing such a thing. I think that is wildly inappropriate.
To give numerous interviews, including to us on Democracy Now!
We need to recognize what's going on around us, what's unfolding in front of our eyes, which is really a textbook case of genocide, with the rhetoric, with the actions, with everything involved.
Siegel's description of Israel's war on Gaza as a genocide has now cost him a job. Last week, the University of Minnesota withdrew an offer to Siegel for him to head the school's Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies after 2 of the center's board members resigned to protest his hiring. The school's decision also came after the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota and the Dakotas launched a campaign to block Professor Siegel from getting the job. The group described him as a, quote, extremist. Roz Siegel joins us now. He's currently Associate Professor of Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Stockton University in New Jersey and endowed professor in the study of modern genocide.
What does that make the ICJ or the UN Human Rights Agencies? Like,
joining us from Bulgaria. Welcome back to Democracy Now!, Professor Siegel. Can you explain exactly what happened? And is there a chance you will be re-offered this job?
Thank you, Amy, for inviting me again to the show. What happened is that there was a completely regular hiring process in a public university. There was a public announcement of the job. There were applications. There were Zoom interviews. There were campus visits. There was actually significant community engagement also during this process. And then eventually the search committee deliberated and made a recommendation to hire me to the interim dean of the College of Liberal Arts. I was then, on the 5th of June, sent an official job offer. And then, as you described, two professors who were formerly on the advisory committee of the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at the University of Minnesota resigned, and together with the Jewish Community Relations Council of the Minnesota and the Dakotas, put a lot of pressure, which was really hateful campaigns of lies and distortions against me, and based on their political position and support of Israel. And on 10th of June, so within days, right, the interim president of the University of Minnesota sent me an email withdrawing the job offer.
And in that letter of withdrawal, did the interim president give a reason?
Yeah, he said that due to the public-facing role of the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies and its director, community members have come forward with some concerns, and that was given as the reason for the withdrawal. And it's important to say, of course, that this is a crude and very dangerous political legitimization, right, of a political interference in an absolutely legitimate hiring process in a public university. It's, completely unacceptable that a political pressure group, the JCRC of the Minnesota and the Dakotas here, and a political position of support of Zionism and the state of Israel, right? Especially, of course, at a time when Israel is committing the crime of genocide for 8 months now, right? But regardless, actually, any political position, any pressure group is not a criteria, should not be the defining factor in a hiring process. And certainly,
the fact is, he's not the only person to have had his jobs as he has either lost a job or lost job opportunities because of this. I just found it just incredible for a Holocaust scholar to be criticized in the same way that other people have been criticized, because to me, it just sort of misses the forest for the trees, right? It's the wrong, you're taking the wrong lesson here. If you should in fact be listening to this man rather than criticizing him. But hey, I'm not in charge of the University of Minnesota. The background's making you feel stoned? Wow. Okay, do I have this video in here still? It is. Oh god. Do we have time to do this right now? This was one of the most frustrating things I watched. And actually, I have been avoiding watching this for a while just because it's anger. The whole thing is kind of anger inducing. Mostly because it was made by PBS, which is a public broadcasting system. They just, oh god, do I have the energy to deal with this right now? Oh, this one's so annoying. Because here's the thing. This is a documentary which Frontline PBS put out 10 days ago. It now has nearly 200,000 views. It's entitled Crisis on Campus. And it's regarding the student protests that are against the genocide in Palestine. And most of it is that here's the thing. When you're talking about Crisis on Campus, you would think that they would have gotten a great number of the students to, I don't know, do interviews. And the fact is they do a bunch of interviews during this, but what they actually wind up doing is only interviewing one, three girls who know each other, all at the same school, and then they go and hit up 20 different sources, different people, who all are pretty much pro-Israel or just anti-Palestine or anti-Palestine protesters. And it's just one of the most lopsided examples of supposed journalism from PBS that I've seen recently. I don't even think I have the energy for this. This thing's like an hour long. How much do I have left to do? I think I forgot to do an ad break on Twitch again. I don't have it. I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me, chat. It's too frustrating of a documentary. It's terrible. It's really bad. No, we're going to this. You vote we skip it? I vote we skip it too. Let's go to this one from the Associated Press from a couple of days ago here, discussing the recent escalations in the fighting between Hezbollah and Israeli forces, which, according to them, appears to be reaching a boiling point. I would have also described it that way too. You watched part of it too? Yeah. Well, it was our tax dollars that paid for it, so I'm glad you watched it. But it was terrible. It did not, you're right, it did not provide much value at all. They didn't even attempt to get a diverse opinion of the student protesters. They did speak to, like I said, like a few of them, but they completely ignored the fact that there were tons of Jewish students who were protesting alongside them, and it provided a very sort of closed-minded sort of, it's like this sort of example of half journalism that I feel like I'm constantly criticizing, where these major news outlets with big funding, whether it's public or private, just kind of failing to provide unbiased sort of coverage. Anyway, we've been talking about this to some degree, but the fighting between Hezbollah in Lebanon and Israel has definitely increased. Both Israeli strikes. Sorry, hold on. To live here is not easy. To be here is not easy. It's unbearable. It can't be contained. It is impossible to live with it. I hope there will be a good end to this whole thing. This is the most important. Yeah, and the fact is guys like that, just regular people, are the ones who are being most affected by this. There's already been a great number of Lebanese civilian casualties in the fighting, and I don't think Hezbollah has actually killed any Israeli civilians. I do think some Israeli troops died, but that's a completely different discussion. The fact is, if you put a troop somewhere and tell them to shoot, then they are inherently in harm's way. Let's talk more about this conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, as there has been a bunch of discussions as well as statements made by the leader of Hezbollah, and I think we'll start with this one from Al Jazeera. Yeah.
Now, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah says his fighters are ready for a wider war against Israel. The Israeli army and Lebanon-based Hezbollah have been fighting on the border since the war in Gaza began in October. Now, in recent days, both sides have stepped up their hostilities and rhetoric. In a televised speech on Wednesday, Nasrallah said his group had increased the number of its fighters and would fight a war without rules for the first time. He also threatened Cyprus, an EU nation, that they too could be a target.
If war is imposed on Lebanon, the resistance will fight without restraint, without rules and without limits. The Cypriot government should be aware that the opening of its airports and bases for Israeli military use would mean the Cypriot government becomes part of the war, and the resistance will deal with this part of the war.
Now, Iran's acting foreign minister Ali Bagheri has held talks with Hamas's political leader here in Doha. Bagheri said that efforts against the war on Gaza should be accompanied by legal, political and diplomatic resistance abroad. He also told Hamas's Ismail Haniyeh that Iran supports any move that guarantees the demands of Palestinians when it comes to ceasefire talks. Gershon Baskins, the Middle East director at the NGO, the International Communities Organization. He's also a former hostage negotiator and joins us now from West Jerusalem. Good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. Can we just begin with the rhetoric that's coming out from southern Lebanon and Hezbollah, and again, the rhetoric that would be from Israel about they'll hit Hezbollah wherever they are? This sort of talk of a much wider conflict worries many beyond the borders of the Middle East.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous picture right now, with both sides being quite bold in their remarks, a great deal of hubris here, of each side threatening to hit the other, going way beyond what they've done in the past 8.5 months. It's extraordinarily dangerous for the people of Israel and the people of Lebanon if this war escalates anymore. We all know that the fighting in the north of Israel, the south of Lebanon, will end on the day that the battle in Gaza ends. And
Exactly. Exactly. I was about to make that point, because we all know that there's criticisms to be made of Hezbollah, but the fact is they've made their stance 100% clear that this is that all strikes that they've sent in the direction of Israel are as a direct result of the onslaught, the genocidal massacres that have been taking place in Gaza, and that the second that campaign ends, they would cease all of these strikes. And, you know, it's once again a very preventable situation, but Israel refuses to budge on any of its sort of desires to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians.
Why we need to put a lot of pressure on all sides here to end the war in Gaza immediately, as soon as possible.
What do you make of the saber rattling about the threat to Cyprus should bases or facilities be offered to Israel there? There is actually a UK...
Now that one I gotta say is out of... This is like one of the criticisms that I would pose in this situation, threatening Cyprus for having allowed... I think what he's referring to is that Israeli forces went to Cyprus to be, for whatever reason, I think they were actually somehow involved in the aid mission. I can't remember exactly how or why, but I think that's why they were in Cyprus. And I just don't think that Cyprus should be involved in this at all in that sort of context. Definitely taking it too far, in my estimation. Not that Hezbollah's going to be listening to me at any time soon. But let's wrap this up with this. This is from 2 days ago from CNN, where Israel warned of all-out war after Hezbollah published the video of its military and civilian sites from a drone. the exact opposite direction that we need to be going in.
Fears of an expanding conflict in the Middle East after Israel's foreign minister warns Hezbollah it would be destroyed if all-out war breaks out. Israel Katz's comments online follow Hezbollah's release of a purported 9-minute drone video that shows sensitive military locations and civilian areas in Haifa and other Israeli cities. And while tensions percolate along the northern border with Lebanon, there's a brewing diplomatic rift between the Netanyahu government and the White House. We are connecting the dots on this for you with Ben Wiedemann, back with us this hour from Beirut. Paula Hancock's is in Jerusalem, and Lauren Fox is in Washington on Capitol Hill. Let me start with you, Ben. Just describe to us the importance of this purported video shot by drones, Hezbollah says, from Lebanon over Israeli cities, including Haifa, which of course serves as a crucial gateway to the rest of the world and maybe more importantly for Israel. How does Hezbollah manage to fly a drone in such strategic locations? And is this psychological warfare that we're looking at here?
Well, Becky, I think the Israelis are also trying to figure out how it is that Hezbollah was able to fly those drones over some very sensitive military positions, military industries, the port, where we see huge oil storage facilities. They got it all. Now, for one thing, what we've been seeing from almost the beginning of the back and forth skirmishes between Hezbollah and Israel is that Hezbollah has been targeting Israeli surveillance and observation equipment all along the border. The Israelis, in fact, brought in cranes to replace the destroyed surveillance equipment, and Hezbollah took those out as well. So clearly there are holes in their ability to see what enters Israeli airspace, but above and beyond that, clearly Hezbollah has the technical capabilities to collect this sort of sensitive information well inside Israeli territory. It's about 30 kilometers.
Yeah. And we don't need to see all-out war, because the fact is I think if we see all-out war, we'll also see the Lebanese security forces involved as well, and at which point I just I just don't like the implications of that at all. Oh God, what have we funded exactly? It's a rhetorical question, everybody. You have 40 likes. Say what? 40? That's crazy. What is that? It's a 4 again? We can't have another 4. 6. It's a 6? Yeah. Okay, now we got more to talk about, but we're done with Hezbollah for now. Let's look at this from 2 days ago. Might be noticing a trend here. But Yemen's Houthi rebels sunk another shipping vessel in the Red Sea, according to the Associated Press.
A second ship attacked by Yemen's Houthi rebels has sunk in the Red Sea. Now, this ship, the Tudor, was attacked about a week ago by what appears to have been a bomb-carrying drone boat launched by the Houthis that rammed into the back of the vessel and exploded. This attack is suspected to have killed at least 1 sailor on board. That raises the death toll from these Houthi attacks that have been going on since November to at least 4 people being killed, and 2 ships have sunk. And we have seen just near daily attacks in the Red Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and the Gulf of Aden, which has disrupted shipping through that vital corridor. Now, as of right now, the U.S. Navy is still there with an aircraft carrier and other destroyers. The Navy says they're facing their most intense combat since World War II in trying to stop these Houthi attacks. The Houthis insist these assaults will continue as long as Israel's war on Hamas in the Gaza Strip goes on. And with that war going on,
I'm sensing a trend. Oh, wait. Why? I clicked Neo. Oh, frozen. Son of a bitch. Oh, Streamlabs, why must you always cause me problems at this time? It's always like 3.5 hours in or so. And it just says, no, you should have gotten your support character in sooner. It's rude. I apologize on behalf of Streamlabs to all of you, because you deserve this 4th stream support, and yet I'm afraid you might not even see it. Because we only have 2 videos left. That's right, penultimate video. Well done, chat. You've made it this far. So give yourselves a little pat on the back. 3 more likes until 50. That's wild. I don't even know how you've done this. It's witchcraft. Okay, let's look at this from a couple of days ago. This is in Israel, where thousands protested in Jerusalem to call for immediate elections and the release of hostages in Gaza. If you want the hostages released, you got to do the peace talks. You got to do the ceasefire.
I came here only to try as far as I can to remove this government out, because they are failure in every aspect. They are not succeeding in what they are doing. It doesn't matter if they are from the left side and from the right side or from what they are thinking. They don't succeed in anything that they are doing. So this is the time to replace them, and it is very urgent in order not to let this country to fall deeply down.
Now, I don't know exactly who would replace Benjamin Netanyahu and crew that would be better than them. And I do think that those elections that they want so bad should probably include Palestinians voting. Just gonna throw that out there. Although I don't know how you would facilitate a vote with Palestinians, considering they don't even have infrastructure for water or electricity or roads or food or sewage and trash, any of the normal things. So I feel like an election would be difficult, but Bernie Sanders for Israeli PM, I would support that. I don't think I can vote, but I would support that. Okay. Last video. This is from a little channel, and by little I mean literally 100,000 times larger than my channel. This is a channel called The Majority Report with Sam Cedar and crew. Emma, Matt, Bradley, and others. This is a comedian's little encounter with the crowd. I couldn't find the full video. I was actually looking for it. But this will have to do.
A stand-up comic in the UK. What is his name?
Patrick Spicers.
Patrick Spicers. Okay, says Bradley off mic. screaming it. Patrick Spicers.
There's a mic right in front of his face. Is the mic not on?
Oh, I just yelled.
He just likes to do that sometimes, and I'm just giving him a little bit of crap, but whatever. We're all having fun here. So this guy, Patrick Spicers, was doing some crowd work, and he came upon somebody in the audience who, I won't spoil it for you guys, but the twist at the end here is pretty funny.
And you, my man, what do you do?
I'm an investigator.
You're an investigator? What kind? Like for the police?
Like war crimes investigator.
You're a war crimes... Is that true? Is that true? Oh my God. Jeez, we really went up a notch, didn't we? Until then it was just all fun, like, oh, first date in the front row. And you're like, I'm here to investigate war crimes. What are you working on at the moment? What's your...
Ukraine.
Ukraine. You're working on investigating war crimes in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Fuck me, man. I thought when you said infrastructure, it was like going to kill the energy, but fuck. You came to win. I like it. And are you from the UK?
No.
No. Where are you from?
From Israel.
You're from Israel. Great. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Of all the places you could have said, you're a war crimes investigator from Israel looking at Ukraine. I think the call may be coming from inside.
Oh God. It's just wild. You couldn't have asked for a more ironical situation in your audience. If only... I feel like that dude should have been at a Sammy Obeid show, because that would have been an entire... That would have taken like 15 minutes to unpack. Oh, look at that. MIDI doctor's just peeking in here. Must have heard the words majority report. But yeah, no, this is amazing. It's just this incredibly paradoxical situation.
I saw some people saying, like, that must have been staged or planted, but he seemed so befuddled, and his response was, like, just one of, I don't know, complete amazement. I don't think it was.
If it was staged, it was well staged.
Although, I gotta say, it feels, like, I mean, it is a paradoxical situation, but it does feel like an average Tuesday or Thursday or Saturday for us here. You know, where we hear the media have zero problems criticizing the war crimes happening in the Ukraine. Meanwhile, they seem to be consistently falling over one another to help try and justify what's happening to Palestinians. And it's weird. And it all existed in one man.
Yes, exactly. Pretty incredible. And just... I don't know.
Wait, you posted it in the memes? Huh. I guess I didn't see that. Sorry, sometimes I don't check the whole Discord every day, and that's my fault.
Aren't I a good guy?
I mean, is that not the most representative interaction of the West's hypocrisy that you've ever seen in your life? I'm just throwing that out there. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Too bad it didn't go on for a little bit longer. I'd love to have seen what the reaction was, if there was any.
I guess we've got to look up.
Check out Patrick Spicer's full set.
Full set, his special, or maybe not special, but set. That's free advertising for that, so you can find out how the rest of that went.
Hopefully it's not.
Well, maybe I'll be able to find it if Mitty has posted it in our Discord. Then maybe we'll watch that on another stream this weekend. Which, yes, there will be more streams this weekend. That is going to be it. Well, gone through another one. Now, it was long and arduous journey through the abyss tonight. Thankfully, we had each other to get through it. I hope you enjoyed, but that's gonna be it for me. Till I see you next time. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Minnie, PB, Robot Cat, Morbius Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Owen Owip, Nadia, Mrs. Jen, Pitchfork's Dragon, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. That's right. All these people here have helped contribute to this here podcast, which your eyes and ears have just gotten done enjoying. You can too, by clicking this link in chat. And for a few US dollars a month, you can enjoy space benefits unseen by the rest of the goddamn galaxy. Write that down.